Chapter 2275. However, Death Disaster was not the Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry's most terrifying ability. Their most terrifying ability was the evolved Undead Disaster, but was no longer called Undead Disaster, but Underworld Descent. Undead Disaster could be said to be the Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry's most terrifying ability, and it was one of Qin's most powerful abilities. It could turn countless people into skeletons in an extremely short period of time, forming a boundless ocean of skeletons. It gave off a boundless deathly aura and had the power to destroy the world. Back then, Qin's Undead Disaster had caused a disaster, and countless people had died. He had used it to fight against China's Northern Alliance army, causing the northern side of China to suffer heavy losses. Now, there was no faction in the northern side of China that could stop Qin's rise. The Undead Disaster had been a very correct step for Great Qin. After the northern side of China was no longer a threat, Great Qin had continued to quickly develop, and in the end, it had successfully unified the northern side of China. With that as a foundation, it had devoured all of China. If it hadn't been for Undead Disaster, Qin would have been suppressed by the Northern Alliance army. Even if he hadn't been destroyed, he would have been in a difficult situation. He definitely wouldn't have been as powerful as he was now. As such, Zhao Fu felt very grateful towards the Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry. When they were in danger, he had even used his origin blood to help them. Zhao Fu's origin blood was incredibly precious and had many uses. It was definitely a treasure of the heavens and earth, and there was no one who wouldn't be tempted by it. Moreover, losing his origin blood would cause Zhao Fu to fall into a state of weakness. In the past, Undead Disaster had been very terrifying, but as Qin had become stronger, Undead Disaster had become less and less useful. Now, Zhao Fu was quite curious. Just how terrifying would the Underworld Descent, which was upgraded from the Undead Disaster, be? Zhao Fu carefully looked at Underworld Descent's information. First, Underworld Descent required 10 Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry to cast together, and they couldn't be cast individually. Compared to the Undead Disaster, Underworld Descent had also undergone massive changes. It was almost completely different. Undead Disaster turned countless corpses into skeletons. Even though individual skeletons were very weak, when gathered together, they were incredibly terrifying. They had the power to destroy everything, which was why it was called Undead Disaster. The Underworld's Descent was even more terrifying than the Undead Disaster. Under the Underworld's Descent, what resurrected were not countless skeletons, but countless corpses. As countless corpses descended from the underworld, the Yellow Springs of Disaster's power would first enter their heads, and the countless corpses would be corroded by the underworld's boundless qi. Under the control of the Yellow Springs of Calamity in the head, the countless corpses began to regenerate. Their flesh and blood would melt and fuse with their bodies, making them look like dried corpses. They looked rather hideous and terrifying. Because the Yellow Springs of Disaster's power was first integrated into the skull, the mummy's eyes were yellow. Some of the more powerful resurrected people had 4 colors in their eyes. The most frightening thing was that these mummies had retained a large amount of their strength. They were not as weak as the skeletons, and their movements were extremely fast and fierce, not as slow and clumsy as the skeletons. Their skin had also become tougher, making it harder for ordinary weapons to cut through. This undoubtedly formed a layer of defense, increasing the difficulty of killing the mummies. Moreover, they also had 3 attributes. One was the most ordinary and had death power. They were the most numerous. They were called Death Nether Corpses. The other had disaster power, and they were less numerous than the first, and they were called Disaster Nether Corpses. The final type was the most terrifying. They gave off the aura of the Yellow Springs, and not only were they incredibly powerful, but they were also incredibly difficult to kill, and they had the ability to contaminate other things. This type was called Yellow Springs Nether Corpses. These 3 types of power corresponded to the 3 types of power within the Yellow Springs of Death. As for the final type of power, it was very difficult for these mummies to obtain it, and only some extremely terrifying corpses would have it. Not only were the revived nether corpses more agile than the skeletons, but they also had decent defenses and 3 different types of power, making them far more powerful than the skeletons. Individually, the skeletons were very weak, but when they gathered together, they were quite terrifying. Now that each of the nether corpses was very powerful, when they gathered together, they would be even more terrifying. It could be imagined just how terrifying it would be if the ground was covered with these kinds of corpses. This was why the underworld descent was even more terrifying than the undead disaster. Apart from the nether corpses being more powerful, the range of the underworld's descent was also larger, and the method it used was somewhat different. The undead disaster gathered boundless deathly aura and formed a massive death magic formation. The death magic formation spun and gave off boundless deathly light that covered a certain range. All of the corpses within this range were affected by the deathly light, and their flesh would split open and fall off like dirt, revealing skeletons. Those skeletons' heads would ignite with spirit flames, and the skeletons would be revived. If they attacked the death magic formation and destroyed it, they would naturally be able to stop the undead disaster. However, the underworld's descent was different. It was like a domain, and not only was it very difficult to stop, but its revival power was also very powerful. It could turn all sorts of creatures into mummies, and no creature could resist it. As for the specifics, Zhao Fu had not personally seen them use it, so he did not know. These were the 5 abilities of the Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry. With such terrifying abilities, they would definitely become the most terrifying existences in the world in the future. They would also become important to Qin, and they would become a powerful trump card for Qin. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "You may rise." The 10 Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry respectfully stood up in the air and waited for Zhao Fu's next order, not saying anything else. Under normal circumstances, after the 10 Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry became so powerful, their intelligence would definitely be very high, and they might even be smarter than ordinary people. However, the Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry was different. Zhao Fu did not know if they were affected by Zhao Fu's king's power or if they were willing to be like this. To them, Zhao Fu was their everything, and they were willing to be emotionless swords that cut through the countless thorns in front of them and follow Zhao Fu to the throne. In actuality, they were more emotional like ordinary people, and they were not as cold as they were now. They did everything for him and resolutely carried out orders, and Zhao Fu could accept this. Most importantly, they were loyal to him. The Yellow Springs Emperor Cavalry still needed power to grow. They could stay in the Yellow Springs River and continue to absorb Yellow Springs power to grow, or they could kill and absorb large amounts of deathly aura to grow. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that there was no battle, so he did not need them yet. He had them continue to cultivate in the Yellow Springs River and make them stronger. Moreover, they could be used as a trump card for Qin, and they would be able to turn the situation around. Chapter 2276. Time passed quickly, and soon, half a month had passed. Zhao Fu went to the place where the Philosopher's Stone was made and started to look around. Several million platforms have been built here, and each platform was a kilometer wide. There were 10 alchemy arrays, and each array could produce 10 Philosopher's Stones a day. Each platform could create 100 Philosopher's Stones per day, and millions of platforms could create hundreds of millions of Philosopher's Stones. Now, many of Qin's soldiers had obtained alchemy power. Zhao Fu first used the Philosopher's Stones on the army stationed in the alchemy world. Now, almost all of them had obtained alchemy power, and their strength had greatly increased. Moreover, Zhao Fu had them learn some alchemy techniques. Now that Qin's soldiers had obtained alchemy power, they could naturally use alchemy techniques as well. This way, the alchemist's advantage was reduced, and Qin could use alchemy techniques to deal with them. Similarly, Zhao Fu did not have all of Qin's soldiers use the Philosopher's Stones. He wanted to maintain the diversity of soldiers in order to avoid being countered in the future. At that moment, a soldier half-knelt on the ground and respectfully reported, "Your Majesty, news has come from the alchemy world. The alchemy world's army is gathering, and their goal is to attack Qin." This subordinate has come under General Wang's orders to report. Hearing this, Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh. He had been preparing to attack the alchemy world, and he had never thought that the alchemy world would deliver itself to him. Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, got it. Following this, Zhao Fu headed to the alchemy world. Qin's generals and soldiers had already arrived at the city walls and were seriously guarding. Seeing Zhao Fu arrive, everyone bowed and said, "We greet your majesty." Zhao Fu came to Wang Jian's side and smiled as he asked, "How are the preparations?" A smile appeared on Wang Jian's face. "Everything is ready. Now, we're just waiting for the gold refiner race to attack." Also, according to the intelligence, the gold refiner race's attacking force has reached 3.5 billion, and there are as many as 15,000 holy beasts. Zhao Fu nodded and looked ahead. Rumble. Massive explosions sounded out as a flood of alchemist soldiers gave off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything as they flooded towards Qin. The massive holy beasts gave off massive auras as they walked forward with heavy steps. Each step left a footprint on the ground, and they looked quite terrifying. Apart from Huage and Bing Han, there was another person in charge of attacking. It was a young man who looked quite arrogant and came for a large faction. His name was Ren Nuo. The humanoid sacred beast that caused great damage to Qin was provided by his family. After a while, the alchemy army arrived in front of Qin. When Fire Demon saw Zhao Fu on the city wall, he looked surprised. He had led troops to attack Qin City a few times, but he hadn't seen Zhao Fu. He didn't know where Zhao Fu had gone, but now that he had finally appeared, the person he wanted to kill the most was definitely Zhao Fu. "Ha, you finally appeared. I thought that you were hiding there and didn't dare to come out. This time, we'll definitely destroy your Qin City and make you die a horrible death." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "You've said this many times, but isn't Qin City still alive and well?" Huague looked furious as he said, "This time is different from before. We have enough strength to destroy Qin City. You'll know how powerful we are in a while, and it's not something that a small Qin City like you can resist." Ren Nuo looked at Zhao Fu proudly as he said, "You're the king of Qin City? Now that my family has joined the alchemy army, can you still resist?" Zhao Fu said with a provocative smile, "Whether I'm capable or not, you'll know once you try." Ren Nuo coldly harumphed and gave the order to attack. Boom! Boom! Just like before, countless terrifying holy beasts shot out cannons towards Qin City and shot out massive beams of light. The beams of light contained terrifying power as they shot towards Qin City, seeming as if they were going to explode the sky. Having war holy beasts was a great advantage for the alchemy race. They could directly use holy beasts to bombard their targets, and the battle would end before it even started. Just like before, a massive wave of chaos power spread out and a black energy barrier appeared, covering Qin City. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as terrifying beams of light hit the defensive barrier, causing shockwaves to spread out. The defensive barrier quickly cracked and shattered, turning into motes of light and dissipating. Huague, Bing Han, and Ren Nuo gave confident smiles and continued to give the order to attack. Boom! Countless alchemy soldiers gave off powerful auras as they flooded towards Qin City, seeming as if nothing could stop them. Swish, swish, swish! The alchemy soldiers at the front held alchemy spears and threw them out. The spears contained immense power and left behind afterimages as they shot towards Qin City. On Qin City's side, shield bearers went up and formed a shield wall. Boundless light shined out from their shields, forming a black shield of light. Bang! 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 As the alchemy spears hit the shield of light, countless alchemy runes lit up and the spears violently exploded. Countless shards shot out in all directions, piercing through the defensive barrier. However, the soldiers at the front were all shield bearers, so when the shards hit the shields, they were forced back a few steps and did not deal much damage. Behind the alchemy army, countless ladder users walked out and pressed their metal arms against the ground. Boom! 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 Massive sounds rang out as metal stairs stretched out from the ground and gave off immense power as they quickly flew towards Qin City. Countless alchemy soldiers rushed up the metal stairs and rushed towards Qin City. Boom! A huge wave of alchemy power spread out as a huge alchemy array appeared on the ground. Boundless alchemy power quickly gathered and poured into the bodies of the countless alchemy soldiers. The bodies of the countless alchemy soldiers shone with light and felt that they had become a bit stronger than before. They gave off an even more ferocious aura as they rushed towards Qin City. Before the countless alchemy soldiers could reach Qin City, the many-war Saint Beasts aimed their cannons at Qin City. Countless lights shone within the cannons as terrifying power spread out. Boom! Boom! Loud explosions echoed as powerful beams of light tore through the sky, bringing with them power to destroy everything. They were extremely fast as they shot towards Qin City. Boom! Boom! Huge white pillars of light rushed into the sky as 100-meter-tall holy light god emissaries appeared. There were over 100,000 of them, and they lined up in a row, giving off a powerful aura. Chapter 2277. During the time that Zhao Fu had been away, Qin had developed in many aspects. For example, his ability to summon holy light god emissaries had been greatly strengthened. Before, Qin could only summon 50,000 holy light god emissaries, but now he could summon 100,000 holy light god emissaries, which was twice as much as before. After the holy light god emissaries appeared, they stretched out their hands, and massive waves of holy light power flowed out. Their palms gave off boundless white light, and defensive barriers once again formed, giving off powerful holy light power. Bang! 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 A series of loud explosions rang out, and terrifying beams of light shot at the defensive barrier. Massive explosions sounded out, and terrifying power spread out, causing some of the defensive barriers to shatter. The countless beams of light were incredibly powerful, but the holy light god emissaries were able to block this wave of attacks. Scree! Massive cries sounded out as metal birds appeared in the sky. The smallest of these metal birds was 1,000 meters long, and their bodies were made of machinery. Their feathers were like pieces of iron. They did not have cannons, but there were holes under their bodies. There were over 100 of them, and each of them was 1 meter wide. Countless rays of light gathered within the holes, forming orbs of light that gave off terrifying power. These mechanical birds could shoot down orbs of light, which would cause massive damage. Before, they had caused many casualties to Qin, so Wang Jian had immediately come down. The mechanical dragons that Qin had created gave off dragon roars as they spread their wings and rushed into the sky. Qin's mechanical dragons were formed from insect hive wyverns that had fused with insect hives. After all, ordinary wyverns could not fuse with the alchemy world's philosopher's stone. Because the alchemy world attacks were too ferocious, Qin had gathered all of his mechanical dragons. However, because of the insect hive's restrictions, there were only 4,000 of them. There were now 3,000 or so mechanical birds. Although the mechanical dragons had a slight advantage in terms of numbers, the mechanical birds were not weak at all. Seeing the mechanical dragons rush over, orbs of light descended from below the mechanical birds, and under their control, they quickly shot towards the mechanical dragons. Boom! 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 The mechanical dragons opened their mouths and shot out massive beams of light that contained terrifying power towards the countless orbs of light. Bang! Bang, bang, bang. Explosions sounded out as the massive beams of light caused the orbs of light to explode. Countless rays of light scattered, and shockwaves spread out. However, a small number of orbs of light dodged the wyvern's beams of light and hit the wyvern's body, causing intense explosions. The mechanical wyvern's hard metal body was also blasted open, and silvery white blood flowed out. These mechanical wyverns were different from the pure mechanical holy beasts. They were a fusion of machinery and life, so they still had blood. On the other hand, pure mechanical creatures didn't have blood. As the number of light balls was relatively small, they did not deal too much damage to the mechanical wyvern. The cracks were less than a meter wide. This was not a problem for the 1,000-meter-long mechanical wyvern. Bang, bang, bang. However, this pain made the mechanical wyvern furious, and it charged towards the mechanical birds, engaging them in battle. It used its mouth to bite, its claws to scratch, its tail to lash, and its body to ram. The mechanical birds weren't weak either, and they used their sharp claws and beaks to attack the mechanical wyvern. The two sides fought in the sky, causing massive sounds to ring out. A mechanical wyvern bit onto a mechanical bird's neck and vigorously pulled, tearing off a large piece of metal. Another mechanical bird swiped with its sharp claws, leaving behind a few long gashes on the mechanical wyvern's body. One of the mechanical wyverns went berserk and slammed into the mechanical birds with ferocious power, sending them flying. Another mechanical bird swooped down, its sharp beak piercing into the mechanical wyvern's body, pecking out a large hole. Boom! Boom! Massive explosions once again sounded out as the 100,000 holy light emissaries stretched out their hands towards the holy beasts. Massive white beams of light containing purifying power shot towards the holy beasts. The holy beasts gave off massive alchemy power, and energy barriers appeared, covering their bodies. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the white beams of light containing immense power slammed against the energy barriers. A few cracks appeared on the energy barriers, but they were not destroyed. By now, the countless holy light soldiers were about to rush in front of Qin. Qin's side shot out a large number of arrows, and the countless arrows containing sharp power rained towards the holy light soldiers. Boom! 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 The holy light soldiers gave off waves of holy light aura, which condensed together and looked like rivers of aura flowing upwards. Even though this aura was just aura, it was as tough as metal, and when the arrows hit it, they were all sent flying away. Only a small portion of the countless arrows hit the holy light soldiers' bodies, and most of them were blocked by the holy light soldiers. After successfully blocking Qin's attack, the holy light soldiers felt even more confident, and they gave off ferocious auras as they continued to rush at Qin. Swish, 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 sharp sound of the air being torn could be heard as rainbow rays of light shot out, bringing with them shocking power. This time, Qin had shot out talisman arrows. Chi, chi, chi. This time, the tough metal aura was unable to stop the arrows, and the arrows pierced through the holy light soldiers' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere and howls to continuously sound out. Qin's soldiers also gave off powerful auras, and these auras gathered together to form weapons or balls that gave off shocking power as they smashed against the metal stairs. The metal stairs were unable to withstand so many attacks and shattered, and the holy light soldiers on them were about to fall from the sky. Boom! Suddenly, a massive explosion sounded out as the massive magic formation behind the holy light soldiers once again gave off a massive wave of holy light. The falling holy light soldiers landed on a transparent surface and did not fall to the ground. The holy light soldiers stood on the transparent surface and gave off powerful auras as they continued to rush at Qin. Swish, swish, swish. The holy light soldiers also started a counterattack, and metal arrows shot toward Qin incredibly quickly, causing some casualties to Qin. Powerful auras spread out as the staircase builders sent more power into the magic formation. The shattered metal stairs once again repaired themselves and continued to extend forward. The holy light soldiers on the stairs continued to give off powerful auras as they rushed at Qin, and they quickly reached the city walls. The holy light soldiers grinned. Now that they had reached the city walls, it would be much easier to kill Qin's soldiers. Chapter 2278. They had fought with Qin's soldiers many times and knew that even though Qin's soldiers were not weak, they had a greater advantage, whether it was in terms of defense or offense. If they had the same number of people and power, the side that would win would most likely be the side from the Golden World. Moreover, They had made preparations to prevent Qin's soldiers from using any other methods. They could not allow something like the teleportation from before to happen again. They gave confident smiles, but when they saw Zhao Fu's expression, they felt that something was off. Facing the alchemist soldiers attacking the defensive walls, Zhao Fu did not seem worried at all, and he instead gave a trace of a smile. Boom! Boom! Explosions continuously sounded out as countless Golden World soldiers looked at Qin's soldiers in shock. Their bodies gave off waves of azure Golden World power, and their bodies gave off a metallic luster. How is this possible? How can Qin soldiers also have Golden World power? They're from the Heaven Awakened world, so it's impossible for them to have Golden World power. Just what's going on? Before, the Golden World soldiers had Golden World power and Golden World skills, and their cultivation was slightly higher than Qin soldiers. Adding on the Golden World's advantage, the Golden World soldiers could easily defeat Qin soldiers. However, things were different now. Even though the alchemy power that great Qin soldiers unleashed was a bit weaker than theirs and was not pure alchemy power, it was not much weaker. Most importantly, the Qin soldiers' cultivation had risen by 3 stages after releasing Golden World power, and they were now more powerful than the Golden World soldiers. The Golden World soldiers were so shocked that they could not react. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a confident smile and officially launched an all-out counterattack. Clang! 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 The sound of metal colliding sounded out as powerful auras exploded out, and the sounds of fighting and cries continuously sounded out. The top of the Great Wall descended into a chaotic battle. A Qin soldier rushed at a Golden World soldier and slashed his saber into the Golden World soldier's body, splitting the metal-covered body in half. A Qin soldier sent his Golden World power into his sword, making it abnormally sharp, and he sliced off a Golden World soldier's head with a single strike. A Qin soldier swung his large axe and spun, sending 3 Golden World soldiers flying back. A Qin soldier held a spear and pierced through a Golden World soldier's chest. A Qin soldier loudly laughed and gave off a powerful azure aura flame. He held 2 scimitars and rushed into the crowd. He continuously swung his scimitars, sending out a few saber lights and slashing apart Golden World soldiers' bodies. A Golden World soldier furiously rushed over with his spear and stabbed toward a Qin soldier. The sharp spear pierced through the Golden World soldier's armor and stabbed into the soldier's body. However, the spear only pierced a little and did not go very deep. This was because not only did the Qin soldier's armor contain materials from the primal chaos world, but the Qin soldier also used Golden World power, causing his chest to turn into metal to block this attack. The Golden World soldier stared at this scene in shock, and before he could react, the Qin soldier's spear pierced through his body. Even though the Golden World soldiers also had armor, the Qin soldiers' weapons contained materials from the primal chaos world and had Golden World power, so they were able to easily pierce through the Golden World soldier's armor. Arg! Pained cries continuously sounded out as blood continuously flew everywhere. Golden World soldiers fell to the ground and became corpses. Looking at the massacring Qin soldiers, the Golden World soldiers looked terrified. Most of the people who died were from the Golden World, while Qin's side had very few casualties. The Golden World soldiers, who had been ferociously charging up the city walls, were forced back by Qin soldiers. Seeing this scene, the Golden World soldiers at the back did not dare to rashly rush up. The Golden World leader's expression was quite unsightly. Even though Qin soldiers had not used any methods, they also had Golden World power. They were all stronger than the Golden World soldiers, and they had more people than the Golden World soldiers. How were they supposed to fight? Rushing up was equivalent to throwing away their lives. Without needing Flame Ghost and the others to give the order, the Golden World leaders gave the order to retreat. They did not want their people to die here, let alone be massacred. They did not know what had happened, but Qin's overall strength was much stronger than theirs. This was not because he had used any methods, but because his true strength was stronger than theirs. In a head-on battle, they could no longer defeat Qin. In the past, although Qin had resisted them several times, it was only because Qin had used some method to block their attacks. They could find corresponding solutions. As long as their overall strength was stronger than Qin's, they could defeat Qin. But now, Qin's overall strength was stronger than theirs. Not only could they not defeat Qin, but they were also on the weaker side. The situation had been reversed. In the future, it was not about how they wanted to attack Qin, but how they should resist Qin's attacks. Flame Ghost was very angry. He had said before that he would kill Qin and make Zhao Fu die an ugly death. But now, not only did the alchemy army not defeat Qin, but they were also forced to retreat by Qin. This made him lose face. He wanted to cut Zhao Fu into pieces and feed him to the dogs. But now, he could not solve the current situation. Although he still had some methods that he had not used, he could not solve the current situation. In the end, Flame Ghost could only suppress his anger and order retreat. With a cold face, I stared at Zhao Fu. He did not speak, but his eyes were cold and murderous. It was obvious that he also wanted to kill Zhao Fu for revenge. But this time they failed again. Ice was also very unwilling, but he also understood that there was no need to continue fighting. Even if he wanted to continue fighting, the others would not agree, so he could only order a retreat. Renewal also had a look of resentment. No one had ever dared to speak to him like that, and he was still alive and well. More importantly, he was defeated by this person. Now, Renewal also wanted to kill all of Qin's people and all of his women as female slaves. He also wanted to torture and kill Zhao Fu in 100 ways, so that he could die in extreme pain. Otherwise, his anger would not be able to dissipate. However, there was no way for him to reverse the situation. He could only go back and find ways to increase his strength, and then attack Qin, or gather more people to attack Qin. Although the overall strength of Qin was stronger than them, as long as there were enough people, they could make up for this weakness. They still had a chance to defeat this hateful Qin, and then they could torture Zhao Fu. Thinking of this, Renewal also ordered a retreat. Zhao Fu looked at the retreating alchemy army with a sneer on his face. Zhao Fu did not want to let them go so easily. Chapter 2279. Swish, swish, swish. The sound of the air being torn could be heard as rays of light shot out from Qin's side, streaking through the air and bringing with them shocking power as they descended like raindrops. Chi, chi, chi. The rays of light easily pierced through the soldiers' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere. Screams continuously sounded out as the soldiers fell and died one by one. After shooting out this wave of arrows, Qin officially launched a full-scale counterattack. Qin's soldiers gave off great power and ferociously chased after the retreating soldiers, making it difficult for the soldiers to retreat. Some of the soldiers at the front could only stay behind to defend, or else they would be slaughtered if they tried to escape. Those at the back did not have to worry about anything. With the people at the front blocking, they did not have to worry about Qin's attacks. The most important thing now was to escape. However, the soldiers at the front were unable to stop the Qin soldiers for long before they were all killed, and the Qin soldiers ferociously chased after the soldiers at the back. Looking at the ferocious killing machines behind them, the soldiers felt fear in their hearts. They were now truly afraid, and they were no longer as fearless and ferocious as before. Seeing that the army couldn't retreat quickly, the leaders of the alchemy forces immediately roused the huge array on the ground. A huge wave of alchemy power spread out, and the numerous alchemy soldiers felt pulled by that power, making them run even faster. Boom! Boom! Massive explosions sounded out as the leaders gave orders for the holy beast to help the army retreat. They shot out massive beams of light towards Qin's soldiers, seeming to want to destroy everything. Countless holy light emissaries flew before the army and stretched out a hand. A massive wave of holy light power flowed out, forming white barriers of light that blocked in front of the Qin soldiers. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the beams of light landed on the defensive barrier, resulting in intense explosions. Waves of terrifying power spread out, causing the defensive barrier to crack. However, it was still able to defend against this wave of attacks. Kill! On the ground, Qin's soldiers loudly roared, giving off powerful auras as they ferociously chased after the retreating army. The mechanical birds in the sky couldn't help because they were being suppressed by the many mechanical wyverns. The mechanical wyverns were stronger than the mechanical birds, and there were more of them, so the mechanical birds had no advantage. Seeing this scene, the leaders of the various alchemy forces had ugly expressions. They ordered the ladder builders to unleash their powerful alchemy power. The ladder builders pressed their arms against the ground. Waves of alchemy power spread out. Metal walls emerged from the ground, blocking the path of Qin's soldiers, helping the alchemy army escape. The Qin soldiers at the front sent waves of alchemy power into their weapons, causing them to give off a metallic aura and become incredibly sharp. They vigorously slashed at the metal walls. Clang! A cold light flashed, and the metal wall was split open. Many Qin's soldiers jumped over the wall and continued to rush towards the alchemist soldiers. The alchemy army was desperately running away, and their faces were full of fear. How did Qin's soldiers become so terrifying? I've never felt like this before. The current Qin is not the previous Qin. Seeing this, Renua did not hesitate and released his family's war saint beast. Boom! Boom! Massive explosions sounded out as terrifying auras spread out like floodwaters, drowning everything within them. No one was able to resist. One after another, robots that were thousands of meters tall appeared in front of everyone. These androids were muscular and tall, and their bodies were green. Their expressions were cold and stiff, and they wore armor and carried large metal swords on their backs. They looked like robots from a futuristic sci-fi world. There were more than 500 of them. After the androids appeared, countless rays of light shot out from their backs, and their bodies flew into the air, rushing towards Qin's soldiers incredibly quickly. In the sky above the alchemy army, the androids took out the large swords on their backs and sent waves of powerful power into them. The large swords gave off intense saber lights and sharp saber chi. Boom! 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 The androids slashed out again and again, and thousands of meter-long saber lights containing power that seemed to be able to split the heavens and the earth slashed towards Qin's soldiers. They were incredibly powerful, and there was nothing that could stop them. The holy light emissaries in the sky above Qin's soldiers stretched out their hands, and waves of holy light poured out from their palms as huge white barriers of light appeared. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the terrifying saber lights slashed on the white barriers, shattering them and even splitting the holy light emissaries in two, as well as killing some Qin soldiers. There were originally 100,000 holy light emissaries, but in just a single wave of attacks, over 10,000 of them had been wiped out. Now, there were only 80,000 left. The strength of these androids was truly terrifying. Although there were only 500 of them, they could cause so much damage. Moreover, their movements were nimble and not clumsy at all. They even had the ability to fly, and their armor seemed to be very tough. Boom! 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 Massive explosions once again sounded out as the Saint War Beast grasped this opportunity and once again shot out beams of light that contained immense power towards the Holy Light God Emissary. The Holy Light Emissaries had no choice but to once again unleash powerful Holy Light power. Their bodies gave off boundless white light, and huge white barriers of light appeared. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the white beams of light containing shocking power slammed against the defensive barrier. The defensive barrier blocked the beams of light and only cracked, but it did not shatter. Because of the threat of the androids and war saint beasts, Qin soldiers could not attack without restraint and could only slow down their attacks. The gold refiner soldiers ran even faster. If they did not run now, they would not be able to escape. The leaders of the gold refiner factions let out sighs of relief. They had finally stopped Qin's attacks. If they could not stop them, it would be very difficult for their armies to escape, and even if they managed to escape, they would suffer heavy losses. At that moment, They ordered their soldiers not to worry about anything else. It was more important to run for their lives. Zhao Fu coldly smiled as he looked at the countless gold refiner soldiers fleeing in panic. He stretched out a hand, and a crystal ring on his finger flashed with countless rays of light as a beam of light shot into the sky. After the beam of light shot into the sky, a massive circle spread out, and it continued to spread in all directions. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out. An incomparably terrifying pressure descended from the sky. It was as if space itself was being crushed. It was extremely terrifying. Chapter 2280. An indescribably massive metal object slowly sank from the hole, and its massive size covered the entire sky, causing the light to dim. Countless people in the alchemy world looked at the massive object in shock, their minds going blank, and their bodies could not help but tremble. What was this terrifying thing? The metal object gave off heaven-toppling might as it continuously sank and finally appeared in front of everyone. It was a massive city covered in metal. No, it couldn't be said to be a city, but a fortress. It was covered in metal, giving off a feeling of indestructibility. Huge cannons could be seen protruding out of it, giving off a terrifying feeling. Moreover, the city wall was incredibly tough, and countless people could live within it. The center was filled with lush greenery, and there was a massive tree at the center that gave off intense ripples of life. This was Qin's war god's fury, and it covered an area of 10,000 kilometers. No spatial ring could contain it, so Zhao Fu used a summoning ability to summon war god's fury into the alchemy world. Run! Sensing the destructive aura, the leaders of the alchemy world roared in terror. How could Qin create such a terrifying thing? Facing such a terrifying thing, the leaders of the alchemy world were incredibly terrified and did not have any thoughts of resisting. They could only run, or else they would all be wiped out. Na Renal, Huo Gui, and Bing Han looked at the terrifying object that covered the entire sky, and their hearts were filled with fear. War God's Fury's icy cannons slowly moved and aimed at the countless god beasts. Countless rays of light shone from the cannons, and waves of destructive aura spread out. In that instant, the world seemed to be in a state of destruction. Boom! 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 Heaven-shaking explosions sounded out as massive beams of light containing world-destroying power shot towards the holy beasts with unstoppable momentum. Nothing could stop them, and space seemed to collapse. The god beasts hurriedly released all of their alchemy power, and 3 layers of metal barriers covered their bodies. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as countless rays of light shot out, illuminating the surroundings. Waves of terrifying destructive power instantly spread out, and the ground, rocks, trees, and flowers all shattered in that instant. A shock wave formed into a wild gale that spread out, uprooting countless trees and blowing gravel away. It was as if a disaster had descended. After the dust settled, there was a crater over 1,000,000 meters wide in the ground. There were rocks and wood scattered around, as well as pieces of Saint Beast metal. Apart from the holy beasts that were directly destroyed, there were also quite a number of holy beasts that were damaged. Some had some cracks, some had a part of them broken, and some even had a hole in them. There were originally more than 10,000 beasts in the war, but after this wave of attacks, more than 1,000 holy beasts were directly destroyed, and more than 2,000 were injured. If such a terrifying attack was unleashed a few more times, all of the saint beasts would be destroyed. This scared countless people into storing the saint beasts in special containers, not daring to let them out again. The mechanical birds in the sky were also fleeing in fear. They couldn't be kept like the other holy beasts. This was because the other war saint beasts were at the back of the army and could be used to escape after collecting them. However, the mechanical birds were in the sky and were still at the front of the battlefield. If they were put away, they would have to face the pursuit of countless mechanical dragons. Without any obstructions, they would not be able to escape at all, so they could only control the mechanical birds to escape. That way, their chances of survival would be slightly higher. Roar, roar, roar. The mechanical dragons chased after the mechanical birds in the sky, giving off massive dragon roars as they shot out massive beams of light with great power towards the mechanical birds. The mechanical birds gave off intense alchemy light and released metallic defensive barriers that covered their bodies, giving off powerful alchemy power. Bang, bang, bang. A series of loud sounds rang out as the powerful beams of light struck the light barrier. Some shattered the light barrier, while others blasted down the mechanical birds in the sky, smashing them into the ground and creating a large crater. The mechanical birds excitedly and savagely flapped their wings, bringing with them a wild gale as they ferociously rushed towards the mechanical birds. The many holy light emissaries looked at the hundreds of massive robots, scaring them into fleeing. They quickly fled, while the many holy light emissaries continued to rush forwards. White beams of light shot towards the massive robots, and the robots gave off energy barriers that dodged and blocked. However, some of the barriers were still destroyed. The war god's fury in the sky aimed small cannons at the countless escaping holy beast soldiers, and countless beams of light shot out. Boom, boom, boom. Loud sounds rang out, and balls of light shot out from the barrels. There were so many of them that they covered the entire sky. Then, like raindrops, they shot towards the alchemy army on the ground. The holy beast soldiers gave off waves of metallic aura in fear as they defended with all their might while desperately fleeing. Bang, bang. Explosions sounded out as countless pieces of flesh and blood flew everywhere. Rocks were sent flying, and 3-meter-wide craters were smashed open on the ground. Blood and dismembered corpses were scattered everywhere, and a dense stench of blood spread out. This wave of attacks had caused the deaths of at least 10 million holy beast soldiers. Looking at the ground covered in blood and dismembered corpses, it was like a charaba. It was incomparably terrifying. Whether it was the soldiers or the holy beasts, the holy beast army had been completely defeated by Qin. They could not fight back at all. Zhao Fu smiled as he watched the holy beast army flee. He had wanted to rush towards the leaders of the holy beast army and capture them, but they had run the fastest. As such, Zhao Fu could only focus on the holy beast soldiers. Now, there was no need for a massacre. It was time to subdue some holy beast soldiers. If Zhao Fu wanted to set up a magic circle in the holy beast world, he had to subdue countless people from the holy beast world. Otherwise, he would not be able to develop at all. Moreover, their participation would increase Qin's combat power. Every war would consume a lot of resources, so Qin had to obtain enough benefits. Otherwise, Qin would be exhausted to death. As such, Zhao Fu was quite willing to take some captives. He would only kill those who refused to surrender or those who had done many evil things. Zhao Fu had Qin's soldiers spread out on both sides, surrounding the escaping holy beast army. The mechanical wyverns cut off the holy beast army's rear, and the war god's fury soldiers attacked from the middle, destroying the holy beast army's cohesion and confidence. Chapter 2281. Qin's army obeyed Zhao Fu's orders, and they quickly split into two and spread out, forming an encirclement. The alchemist army understood Qin's goal and retreated in terror. Once they were surrounded by Qin's army, it was possible that they would all be annihilated, and not a single person would survive. Roar, roar, roar. The 4,000 or so mechanical wyverns flapped their wings and quickly came to the back of the alchemist army. They gave off dragon roars and shot out powerful beams of light that shot towards the back of the alchemist army, resulting in explosions. The holy light emissaries also flew towards the back of Qin's army and unleashed attacks that blasted onto the back of the alchemist army, causing countless people to die. Bang, bang, bang. Explosions continuously sounded out from the back, and terrifying shockwaves spread out, causing the alchemist army to understand that the back had become even more dangerous. As such, they no longer ran toward the back and instead rushed towards the sides. Even though there were Qin soldiers on both sides, they were in a better situation than the mechanical wyverns and holy light emissaries. After all, the mechanical wyverns and holy light emissaries madly blasted them, making them unable to retaliate at all. Facing Qin's soldiers, they at least had the ability to retaliate. However, at that moment, they felt that they were covered by a large shadow, and when they looked up, they were horrified to find that the war god's fury had arrived between them. Boom! The war god's fury sank down and gave off a massive might that contained shocking power. It landed on the alchemist army's bodies, causing even space to tremble. The soldiers at the center of the might seemed to be crushed into meat paste by a formless power, and the countless alchemist soldiers around them felt their bodies sink as if there was a large rock weighing down on them. The Qin soldiers on both sides started to shrink, forcing the alchemist soldiers to retreat. In the end, Qin's soldiers successfully surrounded the alchemist army. Countless alchemist soldiers looked around in terror, their bodies trembling. They looked like a group of lambs waiting to be slaughtered, and they no longer looked as cold and bloodthirsty as before. After Zhao Fu arrived in front of them, everyone fell silent. The city refiner soldiers looked at Zhao Fu in terror. He was the ruler of Great Qin, the person who had completely defeated them. Zhao Fu looked at Zhao Fu in fear. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu gave off a terrifying emperor's aura that flooded out. He coldly looked at the alchemist army and said with a dignified and domineering voice, "Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will die." Even though Zhao Fu's voice was not loud, it sounded like thunder in the ears of the gold refiner soldiers. They felt an unparalleled pressure from an emperor, and they felt a sense of inferiority and despair. The soldiers looked around. They had been surrounded by Qin, and there was no chance for them to escape. An alchemist soldier was terrified. He dropped his weapon and knelt on the ground, crying, "I'm willing to surrender. Don't kill me." Then, more alchemy soldiers knelt down and expressed their willingness to submit to Qin. Zhao Fu smiled and ordered Qin's soldiers to accept the surrender of the alchemist soldiers. They killed those who refused to surrender and then cleaned up the battlefield. By this time, the various alchemy forces had already fled back to their own forces. The news quickly spread, causing a huge uproar. What? So many of our gold refiner soldiers lost, and to a Heaven Awakened World faction at that? Is a Heaven Awakened World faction that powerful? They must have used some sort of despicable method. It's just like last time. No, this time, it was Qin who truly defeated the gold refiner army. We don't know what they did, but they also obtained gold refiner power and became even more terrifying than us. We weren't a match for them at all. Is this true? How could the Heaven Awakened World's people have gold refiner power, and they're even more terrifying than us? Why would I lie to you? This time, the alchemy faction dispatched 3 billion soldiers and 15,000 Saint War beasts, but they suffered a crushing defeat. Only 400 million soldiers managed to escape, and over 4,000 of the 15,000 Saint War beasts were destroyed. Some of them were heavily damaged. So pitiful? Isn't that Qin a bit too terrifying? What should we do now? Losing so many people and Saint War beasts will be a heavy blow to our factions. How would I know? All the factions' expressions are quite unsightly, and we're thinking about how to deal with this. However, I feel that it will be quite difficult to deal with. That Qin is simply too terrifying, and we've lost so many people. Now that Qin's strength has become so terrifying, will they attack us? I'm so afraid that they will attack. If we can't stop them, we'll have to run and leave our home. Oof. I don't believe that a Heaven Awakened World faction would dare to attack the Heaven Awakened World. Our Heaven Awakened World has a big advantage on the battlefield, and if they're not afraid of death, I want to kill a few people from the Heaven Awakened World. I feel that they might attack. That Qin is different from ordinary Heaven Awakened World factions, and more importantly, they're powerful while we're weak. Is it possible that they won't attack us? AI. Now, we can only wait and see how things develop. I'm so worried about the future of our families. How could we encounter such a terrifying faction? The various families gathered together, and their expressions were quite unsightly. Losing so many soldiers and beasts had dealt a heavy blow to them. More importantly, if that Qin attacked them, what should they do? This gave the various families quite a headache, because with the strength that Qin had displayed, it would be very difficult for them to defend against him. If they could not defend against him, their families would be wiped out. Some people even suggested that they retreat from this region. Since they could not defeat him, they could only hide. However, they had developed here for so many years, and their foundations were here. If they retreated, they would suffer massive losses, and their families might fall. Moreover, where could they retreat to? Every region was controlled by an alchemist family, and if they retreated there, the other families would definitely not agree. In the end, there would definitely be a battle. They would suffer great losses. The various families continued to think about how to deal with Qin. As for the three people in charge, Flame Ghost, Ice, and Renewal, they were also severely punished. They were stripped of their authority and their identities as young masters. Even though they had not made any mistakes this time, it was mainly because Qin was too powerful. If it had been anyone else, they would have lost. However, they had led the army to attack, and now that they had suffered such heavy losses, they had to be severely punished. The three of them, who had noble statuses and could become the next leaders of their families, had lost the possibility of becoming the next leaders of their families. They had fallen from their high positions, and others naturally mocked and ridiculed them. Now, the situation had completely reversed. It was no longer Qin worrying about the Heaven-Awakened world attacking, but the Heaven-Awakened world worrying about Qin attacking them. Chapter 2282. On the other side, Qin had already cleaned up the battlefield. He had killed more than 700 million alchemy soldiers and subdued 5 billion alchemy soldiers. More than 400 million alchemy soldiers had run away. The 400 million soldiers that had run away did not directly follow the leaders back. Instead, they had fled in all directions. Perhaps there were still alchemy soldiers hiding in the forest somewhere. Apart from the soldiers, there were also more than 300 broken mechanical birds. The holy beasts had basically been taken away. Even if they were damaged, they would be taken away. The group of mechanical birds had been chased by the mechanical dragons. Not many of them had escaped. Some had been directly smashed, and some had been seriously damaged. The 300 mechanical birds that Qin had obtained were the ones that had been seriously damaged and could not escape. Now, they were more seriously damaged, but they could be repaired. Zhao Fu wanted to keep them for Qin to use. This was because Zhao Fu had seen the strength of these mechanical birds with his own eyes. They were indeed very powerful. If Qin could control these mechanical birds, Qin's strength would increase a lot. However, it was not easy to use holy beasts. As mentioned before, people who controlled holy beasts all had family marks, and holy beasts and family marks were bound together. To use holy beasts, one had to subdue a family. Only after controlling a family could one control the holy beasts of the family. Families were the main forces that controlled the alchemy world. Other types of forces were very rare. The alchemy world could be said to be a world of families. These mechanical birds were like dead things without anyone to control them. Zhao Fu ordered people to put them on the wrath of the war god. Now, the wrath of the war god was not only an attack weapon, but also a fortress that could be lived in. There was also a special alchemy research room in it. It would be easier to put the mechanical birds there to repair them. After dealing with this matter, Zhao Fu let the soldiers rest. After such a big battle, Qin had consumed a lot of energy. Moreover, Qin had just subdued 5 billion alchemy soldiers. This was a very large number, and they needed to be handled carefully. They could easily rebel. Zhao Fu had also left many restrictions in their bodies to prevent this. Qin's current troops were only 5 billion. If the 5 billion alchemy soldiers rebelled, the consequences would be very serious. There were also 3 billion alchemy soldiers imprisoned in the alchemy land. If something happened there, it would be 8 billion alchemy soldiers rioting. Just the thought of it was terrifying. Zhao Fu thought that Qin's soldiers had consumed a lot of energy, and because of these alchemy soldiers, he temporarily gave up the idea of directly attacking the alchemy family. When he was fully prepared, he would officially attack the alchemy world. Right now, Zhao Fu wanted to deal with the gold refiner soldiers. The 1.5 billion gold refiner soldiers had restrictions within their bodies, so there was no need to worry about them for now. What Zhao Fu needed to do was deal with the 1.3 billion gold refiner soldiers. If he could subdue them as well, Qin would gain 2.8 billion Tier 2 alchemy soldiers. Moreover, all of these alchemy soldiers were Tier 2, which would significantly improve Qin's strength. Originally, Zhao Fu had wanted to use the evil flower seeds to control the imprisoned gold refiner soldiers. Now that he had seen so many alchemy people submit to him, he wanted to see if he could subdue them. If he could not, he could continue to imprison them and wait for the evil flower seeds to be successfully cultivated. Zhao Fu also found some alchemy generals and asked them to help him persuade the gold refiner soldiers. This should be very effective. Following this, Zhao Fu brought dozens of alchemy generals to the alchemy land. The alchemy generals looked shocked as they looked at the soldiers imprisoned in place, unable to move at all. They had thought that these soldiers were dead and had never thought that they would be imprisoned here for so long. Apart from these generals, Zhao Fu also brought many soldiers to prevent any accidents. Zhao Fu first ordered some of the imprisoned gold refiner soldiers to be released. Then he said to the generals next to him, "Go up and see if they will submit to Qin. If they are unwilling, don't blame me for being ruthless." The dozens of generals nodded in fear. They were very afraid of a terrifying person like Zhao Fu, and they knew that he was not a merciful person. His hands were stained with blood, and if he said he would kill them, he would kill them without batting an eyelid. A part of the imprisonment formation stopped, and some gold refiner soldiers standing on the periphery regained their freedom. However, they did not dare to move, because there were rows of archers and ballistas facing them. If they dared to move, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although their bodies were imprisoned, their minds were not. When they saw Zhao Fu and the generals they were familiar with, they understood what was going on. The general stepped forward and started to persuade these gold refiner soldiers to join Qin and listen to Qin's master. At first, these people were naturally unwilling. They believed that the alchemy world could definitely destroy Qin and save them. Even if they could not save them, they could still avenge them. However, after the generals explained the current situation, the gold refiner soldiers were stunned. They had never thought that such a thing would happen. How did Qin become so terrifying? On the contrary, the alchemy world was the weaker side, and they had to worry about Qin's attack. This was completely different from what they had imagined. "Generals, is what you said true?" A soldier still did not believe it. He looked at the generals and asked. The generals sighed and nodded. "Now that we have all surrendered to Qin, why would we lie to you? The surrounding gold refiner families are no match for Qin, and it is only a matter of time before Qin destroys them. Think about your families and surrender to Qin." The gold refiner soldiers hesitated. If they did not agree, they would either die here or continue to be imprisoned here. It was very difficult to be imprisoned like this, and no one wanted to continue living like this. Now that Qin was so powerful, if the gold refiner families were destroyed, they really needed to consider joining. Now that they joined Qin, the safety of their families would be guaranteed, and there would be more opportunities for advancement in the future. As such, after thinking for a while, the gold refiner soldiers agreed to surrender to Qin. Of course, there were also people who were very stubborn and loyal, and they cursed these people as traitors and lackeys who had betrayed their families and should be executed. Unsurprisingly, these people were all killed by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu skinned them, cut them open, and dug out their hearts to show everyone. Such a bloody scene made the gold refiner soldiers even more afraid to resist, and they were willing to surrender to Qin. In the end, Zhao Fu subdued the 1.3 billion gold refiner soldiers, and he did not have to wait for the evil flower seeds to be cultivated before he could control them. Now that Qin had 2.8 billion gold refiner soldiers, Zhao Fu could not help but smile. Qin only had 5 billion gold refiner soldiers in the alchemy world. Chapter 2283. This was incredibly important to Qin's future development in the alchemy world. Moreover, these were all Stage 2 soldiers, and Qin only had about 6 billion Stage 2 soldiers. The rest were all Stage 1 soldiers. Now, Qin was mass-producing Philosopher's Stones, which had the ability to increase cultivation. Qin's Stage 2 soldiers would quickly increase. After subduing these alchemy soldiers, Zhao Fu put some alchemy people in important positions to pacify the army. He also used Qin's generals to lead these alchemy soldiers so that they would slowly get used to Qin. Following this, after Qin finished his preparations, Zhao Fu would launch a counterattack against the surrounding alchemy families. Within a room, Hua Gui sat paralyzed on a chair, a look of disbelief on his face. He was the Hua family's young master, the person with the highest status in the Hua family. Now, he had been stripped of his status and had become an ordinary family disciple. He could still remember the mocking and disdainful gazes around him, and it was like a knife stabbing into his heart. He had wanted to teach those people a lesson, but they had not placed him in their eyes at all and had instead taught him a lesson. This made him incredibly angry, and he wanted to kill all of those people. However, he did not have the ability to do so, as he was no longer the young master and was just an ordinary family disciple. If it wasn't for the fact that his father was the clan chief and had resisted the pressure from the various factions, he might have been killed by others. In the past, as the Hua family's young master, he had been incredibly arrogant and had offended many people. Many people had wanted to kill him, but because he was the young master, they had not dared to do so. Now that he was no longer the young master, those people would kill him. He was not going to take revenge on others, but he was worried about whether he would be killed. Hua Gui was also incredibly angry at Qin. Qin had caused him to become like this, and his hatred towards Qin had reached its peak. He wanted to turn Qin's people into meat paste. Moreover, they could not be blamed for this war. Qin had become so powerful, and anyone who went up against him would lose. Hua Gui was quite dissatisfied with this. Suddenly, the door was opened, and a beautiful woman with a fiery figure walked in. She wore a red dress and had a pair of mechanical ears. She was Hua Gui's mother, Hua Duomei. Seeing his mother come in, Hua Gui immediately stood up and asked with concern, "How, his mother? Can Tai let me continue to be the young master?" The beautiful woman's expression was unsightly as she shook her head. "Although your father is the family head, he can't face the pressure of so many elders. He has already decided to give up on you and choose your cousin as the Hua family's young master." Flame Ghost's face was pale and his eyes became empty. His only hope was gone. The beautiful woman could not bear to do this, and she hugged Flame Ghost as she comforted him, saying, "Flame Heir, don't feel bad. It's fine to be an ordinary family disciple. With your father's protection, no one would dare to harm you." Flame Ghost shook his head and cried, "Mother, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be a disciple of an ordinary family. Countless people will laugh at me. That's a humiliation. I'd rather die than accept it." The beautiful woman also began to cry. "What? You can't do anything stupid. If you die, what will happen to your mother? If you don't want to stay in the Hua family, I'll discuss it with your father and take you away from the Hua family to another place." Flame Ghost cried as he said, "I don't want to be like this either." This was indeed worse than the previous option. Even though the previous option would be somewhat humiliating, their statuses were more prestigious. However, if they left the Hua family, they would be nothing and would be like ordinary people. The beautiful woman cried as she felt quite troubled. "Hua Heir, what do you want?" Flame Ghost said with a pleading expression. "Mother, please beg Dad and tell him to convince those people to let me continue to be the Hua family's young master. I swear that I'll work even harder to cultivate and become a peerless expert before destroying Qin." The beautiful woman looked at Flame Ghost and did not know what to say. Now that the matter had been decided, even if she went to beg, it would be useless. At that moment, 2 more people walked in. One had a similarly fiery figure and wore a purple dress. She had a pair of mechanical eyes and looked quite ambitious. The other was slightly younger and had a graceful figure. She had long hair and a pair of mechanical eyes, and she gave off an intellectual aura. The beautiful woman was called Huolin, and the other was Huolingyan. Huolin was the Hua family's second wife and Flame Ghost's second mother. The other was Huolingyan, her daughter and Flame Ghost's big sister. Huoduome was Flame Ghost's mother. Seeing the two of them come in, she wiped her tears and asked, "Why are you two here?" Huolin lightly laughed as she said, "We naturally have a way to deal with big sister's problem." Hearing this, Flame Ghost looked at Huolin and hurriedly asked, "Second mother, you have a way to deal with this? You want me to continue to be the Hua family's young master?" Huolin confidently nodded and smiled as she said, "As long as your mother is willing to listen to me, you'll always be the Hua family's young master, and no one will be able to replace you." Flame Ghost said in delight, "Second mother, hurry and tell me what it is. My mother will definitely agree for me." Huolin smiled as she looked at Huoduome with her beautiful eyes. Huoduome said, "Second sister, tell me what it is. If it can really protect Hua Heir's position as the young master, I'm willing to do anything." Huolin gave a satisfied smile and said, "The heir, leave for a while. I have something to discuss with your mother." Flame Ghost felt quite confused as to what it was that could not be said in front of him. However, for the position of young master, he readily agreed and left the room. After Flame Ghost left, Huolin told Huoduome about her method. Huoduome's expression greatly fell, and she hurriedly shook her head. "I definitely won't do such a thing." "Second sister, why do you have such an idea?" Huolin lightly laughed as she said, "Big sis. Moreover, this is the only method, and you don't have to worry about the future." Huoduome hesitated, and after a while, she asked with certainty, "Second sister, can you promise?" Huolin nodded. "Don't worry, I promise to do as I say." Huoduome let out a sigh of relief as she said, "Then I'll promise you. Wait for me here for a while." Huolin smiled as she said, "No problem." Following this, Huoduome left. By the side, Huolingyan gave a trace of a smile as she said, "Mother, the plan was very successful." Huolin also gave a happy smile as she said, "Since the Hua family has been so heartless towards me, don't blame me for being unjust towards them. No matter how you look at it, you're the most suitable person to be the young master, but they despise your mother's bloodline for being impure and refuse to make you the young master. Also, it's one thing to make your trash little brother the young master, but they actually chose an outsider as the young master. I can't take this lying down." Chapter 2284. Huolingyan smiled as she said, "Mother, I won't let you down. I'll become someone that the entire Hua family will look up to, and I won't let you suffer any grievances." Huolin looked at her daughter with her beautiful eyes and smiled in relief. Huolingyan then asked, "Mother, do you think Ani can get that thing?" Huolin smiled as she replied, "Your Ani has a noble status and is the daughter of an extremely high-ranking elder. Her bloodline is also very pure, and she's the patriarch's wife, so there shouldn't be any problems. If I had her status and bloodline, I wouldn't need her help, and we could directly go to Qin City." Hearing this, Huolingyan nodded. More than an hour later, Huoduome nervously returned to her room and said, "Now that thing has been recorded in my bloodline." Huolin smiled as she said, "Then let's go." Zhao Fu sat in a room and looked at the three cloaked people in front of him as he smiled and said, "Are you really willing to help Qin break into the Hua family? You even brought the method to make the ball of destruction?" Huolin took off her cloak and smiled as she said, "It's true. With Qin's power, no one here can resist him. It was the right choice for us to submit to you." Hearing this, Zhao Fu laughed as he looked at the beautiful woman in front of him. Facing Zhao Fu's gaze, Huolin's smile became even wider as she continued to say, "As for the method to make the ball of destruction, it's a taboo in the family and must be recorded in the bloodline. It's now with her." Huolin then looked at Huoduome. At that moment, Huoduome and Huolingyan took off their cloaks, revealing their appearances and figures. Zhao Fu looked at Huoduome. The ball of destruction that Huolin spoke of was the metal ball that Huoguo had used before. It had terrifying destructive power, and Zhao Fu had seen its power several times, which had caused great casualties to Qin City. If he could obtain the method to make it, It would be of great help to Qin City. Duome looked at Zhao Fu and said seriously, I can give it to you, but you have to promise us that you can't hurt our relatives and my son, Huge. You can't hurt him, and you have to support him to become the young master. Looking at Hua Duome, Zhao Fu could not help but chuckle and understood that this beautiful woman was Hua Gui's mother. As for the flame ghost, Zhao Fu had not placed him in his eyes from the very beginning. As long as there were large amounts of benefits, it would not be difficult for him to let him go, so he agreed. Hua Duome felt at ease. She had thought that because her son had attacked Great Qin a few times, there was a great enmity between them, and Great Qin would not let him off easily. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would let him off so easily. The hut. Chen Duome now to hut. Hut hun to say ti hua, chun hut to also hut. Otherwise, Hua Duome would not have betrayed her family. At that moment, Hua Duome pulled up her sleeve, revealing her white arm. There was a fire-red pattern on it that gave off a faint light. Hua Duome said, It's in my body, but only those with the Hua family's bloodline can understand it. Moreover, only those with pure bloodlines can accept this forbidden technique. Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. This meant that only the Hua family could make it and pass it down. Most importantly, it required a pure bloodline, which was quite restrictive. Indeed, the alchemy world was dominated by families. Whether it was the war beast or this powerful forbidden technique, they were bound to the bloodline and could not be used without a bloodline. Seeing Zhao Fu's disappointed expression, Hualin smiled and said, Sir, after you subdue the Hua family, you just need to have them make the ball of destruction. Also, this is my daughter, the Hua family's #1 beauty. She's willing to serve, sir. As long as she became Zhao Fu's woman, it would be much easier for her to deal with matters in the future. She would also be able to directly see Zhao Fu, and with Zhao Fu's support, she would have no problems becoming the family's leader. This was Hualin's goal. She did not care about a mere young master. What she wanted was the position of the Hua family's leader. She wanted her daughter to be the Hua family's leader, the most prestigious person in the family. Hualingyan looked at Zhao Fu and gave a moving smile as she went up and sat in Zhao Fu's embrace. Zhao Fu hugged her and lightly smelled her fragrance as he started to play with her body. He then looked at Hualin and lightly smiled as he said, You come over as well? Hualin flirtatiously smiled and prepared to walk over. Hua Duome immediately said angrily, Second sister, you can't be like this. You have a husband. How can you and your daughter serve a man? Hualin lightly harumphed, Don't mention him. Didn't he love you and your mother the most back then? I don't want to be his woman anymore. Since sir has taken a liking to me, it is my honor. Hua Duome looked quite angry as she said, If you feel wronged, you can tell your husband, or I can give the position to you. However, you can't betray your husband. Also, you didn't tell me about this before. Hualin coldly laughed as she said, Do you think your words will matter? I've had enough over the years. Moreover, he's just a clan leader who will soon be dethroned. I don't want to stay by his side. Hua Duome felt quite startled and said angrily, Didn't you promise me? Hualin said mockingly, I only promised to protect your son's position as the young master and that your family will not be harmed. I don't think I promised anything about the clan leader. Hua Duome angrily glared at Hualin because Hualin had indeed not promised her anything in detail. By now, Hualingyan's clothes had been taken off by Zhao Fu, and she said shyly, All right, mother, stop arguing with Auntie. Chapter 2285. After an indescribable period of time, Zhao Fu hugged 3 women with red faces and no clothes as they sat in his embrace. Hua Duome powerlessly lay in Zhao Fu's embrace. She had never thought that such a thing would happen. She had just been blaming others, but she had betrayed her husband and acted so lewdly. She didn't know why, but she felt a little infatuated with this feeling. She wanted to do it with this man every day. However, things had already come to this and could not be changed. But she wanted greater benefits, so she could not give her body to Zhao Fu for nothing. Thus he said, My lord, Now that I've given you my body, doesn't that mean that I can protect my husband's position as clan head? You enjoyed my body just now, didn't you? If I have time, I will come and serve you." Hearing this, Hualin, who was in Zhao Fu's embrace, immediately gave a flirtatious smile as she said, "Sir, it's not a big deal. You enjoyed my body just now, and my daughters and my bodies have been given to you. Now, they belong to you, and we can serve you at any time. Also, in terms of aptitude and ability, my daughter is very suitable to be the clan leader. So, please let my daughter be the clan leader." Zhao Fu thought about it, looked at Hualing Yan, and said with a smile, "That's good. After I break through the Hua family, I'll make you the clan leader." Choosing Hualing Yan to be the patriarch was indeed better, because Zhao Fu could completely control her and did not have to worry about her betrayal. Moreover, she was talented. Finally, it was to reshuffle a faction. This way, the faction would be easier to control, and the strength of some people would be reduced to the minimum. Even if they resisted, they would be powerless. Hualin smiled and kissed Zhao Fu. "My lord, you treat me better than my husband. From now on, we will be loyal to Qin and serve you wholeheartedly." Hualing Yan also revealed a faint smile. "Many thanks, my lord." Hua Duomei was a little angry. "My lord, you can't do this. I've given you my body and the forbidden technique." Zhao Fu looked at her with a trace of overbearingness. "Your Hua family has given Qin a lot of trouble. It's already good enough that I didn't kill your husband and son. Even if you didn't surrender, I could easily break through the Hua family. Also, from now on, you're mine. Do you understand?" Hua Duomei felt a bit wronged, and her eyes became red. Everything was different from what she had imagined. Seeing her like this, Zhao Fu's attitude softened, and he said softly, "If your man and that son of yours behave themselves, I will not treat them unfairly. I will keep your son's position as the young master, and you should also perform better in the future." Hua Duo felt much better. Her beautiful eyes looked at the man in front of her and revealed a happy smile. Although she was still deeply in love with her husband, she could not leave the man in front of her. She had just done it intensely with him, and now she could not help but want it. She shyly took the initiative to kiss Zhao Fu. A few hours later, Hua Gei, who had been waiting excitedly in his room, finally saw his mother and second mother. Looking at their red faces and slightly flirtatious looks, Hua Gei felt quite curious. However, he did not want to care about it, and asked caringly, "How, his mother? Did I keep my position as the young master?" Hua Duomei gave a trace of a smile and nodded. Hua Gei finally woke up and could not help but loudly laugh. He was the Hua family's young master, and he would teach those who had dared to mock and humiliate him a lesson. However, Hua Gei felt quite curious. This matter had already been decided, and even his father would not be able to change it. He asked, "Mother, how did you do it? How did you let the family keep me as the young master?" Hua Duomei could not help but blush, and she could not help but think of the scenes of her being violated by Zhao Fu in all sorts of positions. She said in embarrassment, "Hua, you don't need to worry about that. In the future, no one will dare to take your position as the young master. Go back to your room and rest. No matter what happens, don't come out." Hua Gei looked at his mother in confusion, but now that no one would take his position as the young master, Hua Gei was so happy that he did not care. He was quite tired, so he went back to his room to rest. Seeing how embarrassed Hua Duomei was, Hualin could not help but laugh as she teased, "Big sister, you were so lewd under the Lord. If Hua knew that his position as the young master was obtained with his mother's body, I wonder what he would think." Hua Duomei's face became red as she said, "Aren't you the same as Yan? Also, don't do Hua so quickly, or else I won't have the face to see him and his father in the future." Hualin smiled as she said, "I was just saying, in the future, we still need to serve the Lord together. So let's start planning. Try to avoid unnecessary casualties. The Hua family is going to be my daughters. I don't want to suffer any great losses." Hua Duomei nodded. At that moment, Zhao Fu had already led his soldiers over stealthily. In order to avoid being discovered, there were not many of them, but there were still a large number of soldiers behind them. The people that Zhao Fu had brought were just a vanguard. The Hua family now had around 5 billion people and 700 million soldiers. Even though they had suffered great losses, they were still one of the most powerful factions in the region, and no one dared to offend them. Zhao Fu's plan was very simple. Hua Lin and Hua Duomei had some of their trusted subordinates, and they would be in charge of a defensive wall. Zhao Fu would then take people over, and the army would directly attack the Hua family and destroy it as quickly as possible. Hua Lin and Hua Duomei first told their trusted subordinates about this. No one had thought that the two patriarchs' wives would betray the entire Hua family. However, after Hua Lin told them about Qin's strength and how the 8 billion alchemist soldiers had submitted to Qin, everyone looked terrified. Qin was already very terrifying, and they were no longer his match. Now that there were 8 billion alchemist soldiers, how could they stop them? Hua Lin had told them to think about themselves and their families, so almost no one opposed this plan. The Hua family was fated to be destroyed, so they should obtain all sorts of benefits at this time. Following this, their people easily took control of a defensive wall. They knew that these people were the two patriarchs' wives' subordinates and would not betray the Hua family, so there was nothing to worry about. Zhao Fu and his people also arrived and easily took over this defensive wall. They then sent back orders for Qin to attack. The Hua family had been paying attention to Qin's movements this entire time, so they immediately reacted and gathered their forces to stop Qin. They also asked for help from various factions because they knew that with the Hua family's strength, it was impossible for them to stop Qin's attack. Chapter 2286. Hearing this, everyone was startled. As expected, Qin had launched a counterattack against the alchemy world. Everyone was quite afraid, but they still quickly ordered reinforcements to the Hua family. They didn't really want to save the Hua family, but because once the Hua family was destroyed, they would be next. The armies hurried towards the Hua family, but they didn't have much confidence in stopping Qin. However, this was better than sitting there and waiting for death. But when they were halfway there, they learned a shocking piece of news. The Hua family had already been breached. So fast, countless people were dumbfounded. They had never thought that Qin would be able to breach the Hua family's defenses so quickly. It felt like the Hua family hadn't been able to stop them at all. Now, Qin's forces were incredibly terrifying. Now, no one dared to spread out their forces and gather together. That way, they would still have a fighting chance. If they spread out, they would be swept away by Qin. Everyone turned to look at the Hua family. After hearing about this, the Hua family had immediately gathered their forces to defend in that direction. However, the soldiers they had gathered there had been attacked, and many of them had been killed or injured. More than 3,000 mechanical dragons shot out terrifying lasers in the sky, destroying city after city. Explosions continuously sounded out, and flames dyed the sky red as countless screams sounded out. Hearing this, the Hua family's people's minds shook and went blank. They felt that the Hua family was about to be destroyed. Following this, Qin's army ferociously charged into the Hua family and started fighting and killing. The Hua family's people grabbed their belongings and ran in terror. Screams and cries continuously sounded out, creating a chaotic scene. Seeing the demon-like Qin's soldiers charge in, the Hua family's soldiers looked terrified. Some turned and ran, while others threw down their weapons and surrendered. Now, everyone understood that the Hua family was truly doomed. They only had two choices: run or submit to Qin. Clang, clang, clang. Within the Hua family's center, countless sounds of weapons colliding could be heard, and blood flew everywhere. People continuously died. Now, the Hua family's most loyal soldiers were making a final stand, but they were unable to stop it all. Great Qin's soldiers flooded over like a flood, but they were all cut down and died. In the end, Qin's soldiers surrounded the center of the Hua family so tightly that not even a fly could get in. The Hua family's patriarch was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man with short hair. His expression was extremely unsightly. Next to him was Hua Gui. Although his mother told him not to come no matter what happened, the Hua family was about to be destroyed, so he had to come out. He had never thought that the whole family would have such a day. Now, even if he wanted the position of young master, it was meaningless. It was very likely that he would die here today. Thinking of that, Huague felt both fear and bitterness. All around them were members of the Hua clan. They had the pure Hua clan bloodline, and their statuses were all very high. Right now, their expressions were extremely unsightly, because as long as the Qin soldiers in front of them attacked once more, they would all die here. No one was not afraid of death, and some even wanted to surrender to Qin. They looked at the Qin soldiers surrounding them in front of them. They saw that they were only surrounding them, but did not attack. For some reason, the atmosphere was very oppressive. Suddenly, the Qin soldiers respectfully spread out, making a path. A person with a trace of a smile slowly walked in front of the Hua family. Hua Gui's expression became furious, and he glared at Zhao Fu. He immediately recognized Zhao Fu. Just as he was about to angrily say something, he found that his mother and second mother, as well as his big sister, were behind him. Everyone quickly realized why there was no resistance at all. It turned out that someone had betrayed the Hua family, which is why the Hua family had been so easily destroyed by Qin. You three traitors, sinners of the Hua family, sluts, whores, for doing such a thing, you will definitely die a horrible death. Everyone couldn't help but angrily curse. The Hua family's patriarch's expression became even more unsightly, and he couldn't believe that his two wives and daughter had betrayed him. Hua Gui's face was pale, and he had never thought that his mother would betray the Hua family. He couldn't help but think of what his mother had said before, that he would always be the young master, and that no one would take his position. Finally, there was that red and alluring face, as well as that seductive look. Could it be that his mother and second mother didn't want that bastard to do it with him? It was his mother who had betrayed the Hua family for the position of young master, and she had even given her body to that bastard. Thinking about that, Hua Gui felt incredibly pained and guilty. He had forced his mother to do this. Facing everyone's curses, Hua Duome lowered his head in shame and did not have the face to face everyone. However, Hua Lin did not mind at all and instead smiled as she looked at Hua Lingyan. Hua Lingyan gave a trace of a confident smile and walked to Zhao Fu's side as she smiled and said, "Sir, I'll take care of this." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he nodded. After receiving Zhao Fu's permission, Hua Lingyan felt even more confident. She gave off a formless aura as she took a step forwards and said, "Anyone who dares to curse again will be executed by 1,000 cuts." With just one sentence, everyone was so scared that they didn't dare to say another word. Even the elders, who were usually high and mighty, were the same. No one wanted to die in such a painful way. The point was that they were all in the hands of Qin. Qin could torture and kill them in any way he wanted. Seeing everyone quiet down, Hua Lingyan smiled and said, "Right now, I am the Hua family's patriarch, and Hua Gui is the young master. The other positions do not change. You should all know by now that the Hua family has been destroyed. Only by submitting can you live. I surrender." Originally, there were some people who were afraid of death and wanted to surrender to Qin. Now that Hua Lingyan said this, they couldn't help but speak up. This infuriated the elders. This group of spineless guys submitted to Qin so easily. Hua Lingyan revealed a trace of a smile, then looked at the others. "Do you guys still want to persist?" There was no one in this area who could resist Qin. With Qin's power, he would become the overlord of this area and expand. If the Hua family can follow him, we will definitely welcome glory and obtain unimaginable power. I will only say this once. If you don't choose, don't blame me for being merciless. Hearing this, an elder thought about it and said, "I feel that Hua Lingyan is right. There is no longer anyone here who can resist Qin. Qin isn't an ordinary faction and far surpasses the Heaven Awakened faction. I believe that we can submit to Qin for the sake of the Hua family's glory. What do you all think?" Chapter 2287. The other elders didn't want to die either, and now that they had a way out of this embarrassing situation, they all nodded in agreement. Moreover, Huling Yan was right. Great Qin was the overlord of this place, and submitting to it would definitely give them a great advantage. Seeing that the prestigious elders had surrendered, everyone else could only choose to surrender as well. They did not want to die either. However, the previous chief did not say anything and only heavily sighed. No matter what he said, it would be meaningless. Moreover, the betrayal of his two wives made him feel incredibly pained. This was especially so for Hui Duome. He deeply loved her. Following this, Zhao Fu accepted the Hua family's surrender and spread the news. After hearing about this, the Hua family's various regions did not resist and chose to submit to Qin. Zhao Fu impatiently went to the alchemist family's legacy land. He had always wanted to destroy an alchemist family, and he had finally done it. The alchemist family's legacy land was different from the Heaven Awakened world's legacy land. The Hua family's legacy land was a metal platform with many alchemist runes carved on it. At the center was a metal pillar that was 1 meter tall and round. At the top of the pillar was a tongue of flame that gave off a legacy aura. Zhao Fu went up and touched the stone steel with his hand and felt a massive wave of fire alchemy power flow into his body, and the runes on the metal platform lit up. This wave of fire alchemy power was the Hua family's legacy power, and the family's mark was a flame diagram. Zhao Fu did not need this power, and this power was quite low-grade to Zhao Fu, so he did not absorb it. Zhao Fu chose to occupy this metal pillar. In this way, the Hua family would belong to Qin's faction. What was important to note was that this legacy metal pillar could only be occupied by someone from the alchemist world, just like the insect hive and legacy crystals in the outer world. However, Zhao Fu had created his own alchemy power a long time ago and had obtained an alchemy bloodline. He had ordered people to capture geniuses of the various alchemy races, which was why Zhao Fu was able to occupy the metal pillar. Zhao Fu's goal here was not only to occupy the Hua family's legacy pillar, but also to obtain the family mark and the holy beasts. Holy beasts had unimaginable destructive power, and they were things that Qin had always wanted. However, they could only be used after destroying an entire family. Now that Qin had destroyed the Hua family, he wanted to know more about them. Zhao Fu placed a hand on the metal pillar and sent his consciousness into it. Within the flames, Zhao Fu felt an incredible heat that seemed to be able to burn anything. This was the Hua family's source energy. Zhao Fu did not belong to the Hua family, so he could only feel the immense heat. If he was from the Hua family, he would not feel any heat. Through the Hua family's origin flame, Zhao Fu could clearly sense where the Hua family's holy beasts were, as well as their numbers and conditions. However, Zhao Fu could not use this to control them. If the Hua family's leader came here, he would have the ability to control all of the holy beasts, and that was only because of his bloodline. Zhao Fu felt a bit disappointed. In the alchemy world, everything depended on bloodlines. Since he could not control the holy beasts, Zhao Fu could only put this matter aside. Apart from controlling the holy beasts, the family's flames would also record a lot of information. In the alchemy world, all families would record important information, powerful taboo skills, and all sorts of other things. Zhao Fu wanted to find a way to nurture holy beasts, but he found that he needed a bloodline to see it. Otherwise, he would not be able to see the information even if he destroyed it. This made Zhao Fu feel quite helpless, but fortunately, Zhao Fu had the 8 forbidden blood technique. He called Hui Duome over and had her release some blood. Zhao Fu used the 8 forbidden blood technique to fuse it into his body, giving Zhao Fu the Hua family's bloodline for a short period of time. Zhao Fu could also truly possess the Hua family's bloodline, as long as he found something with the Hua family's inheritance or a few people with the purest bloodline. But Zhao Fu did not want to do that, because Zhao Fu currently had a top-notch bloodline. Fusing with a bloodline that was too inferior would lower the bloodline's attributes. Through his bloodline, Zhao Fu obtained the information he wanted from within the flames. In fact, Mu Minxian had also mentioned how to nurture holy beasts. It was roughly to metalize a holy beast from a young age, and then slowly nurture it until it grew into such a powerful holy beast. Although it was relatively simple, involve a lot of things, such as the fusion of cannons, the support of various alchemy techniques, the carving of alchemy runes, the method to control holy beasts, and so on. Now, Zhao Fu had completely grasped this method, and Qin had also grasped the ability to craft sage stones. Therefore, Qin could now make his own holy beasts. This was a very big harvest, and it would be very beneficial to Qin. One could imagine the scene of Qin creating many holy beasts to attack the world. It would definitely be very exciting. But even though he had grasped the method to nurture holy beasts generally took a long time to nurture. It was impossible to nurture holy beasts in a short period of time. This was also a weakness of holy beasts, but because holy beasts had such terrifying destructive power, nurturing them for a long time was acceptable. Zhao Fu wanted to bring this method back and let Qin study it carefully, creating a kind of holy beast that was slightly weaker but could be mass-produced. At the same time, the Hua family could continue to nurture their own holy beasts to serve Qin. The more clans they subdued, the more holy beasts they could nurture. If Qin's research failed, they could use this method to obtain a large number of holy beasts and create a large number of holy beasts. Moreover, Zhao Fu had a big advantage, which was that he could occupy the clan's metal pillars. This was because Zhao Fu had created an alchemy bloodline. If others did not have an alchemy bloodline, even if they destroyed an alchemy family, they would not be able to occupy the metal pillars. This made it impossible to truly subdue an alchemy family. At most, they could only subdue them in name, and they would not be able to control the family. Under normal circumstances, they could only destroy the metal pillars. Zhao Fu memorized the method to create holy beasts and continued to look at other information. The Hua family was very powerful and had existed for a long time, so they had recorded many things. After a while, Zhao Fu finished looking through the information and left the legacy land with a trace of a smile on his face. By now, the Hua family had basically stabilized, and some of the destroyed buildings were being rebuilt. Zhao Fu did not plan on moving the Hua family to Qin's residence. This was because Qin's residence was very small and could not accommodate so many people. Moreover, all sorts of things needed to be rebuilt, which required countless resources and manpower. Chapter 2288. News of the Hua family submitting to Qin quickly spread, making everyone feel quite surprised. They had never thought that the powerful Hua family would submit to a Heaven Awakened World faction so easily. They cursed at how spineless they were and how they had lost face for the alchemy world. However, they started to feel quite afraid. Qin's faction was already quite terrifying, and they had been powerless to stop him. Now that he had devoured the Hua family, what should they do? Some of the smaller factions did not want to take their soldiers and leave. They planned to relocate to this place. Their factions were quite small, so they would not suffer many losses. This place no longer had the power to stop Qin, so they could only choose to relocate or submit to Qin. The most difficult thing was for the larger factions. Not only did they suffer great losses, but they also did not know where to go. There was no place that could accept their massive factions. The factions that had gathered scattered like monkeys when a tree fell, and they all returned to their own factions. As the two most powerful factions, the Bing family and the others decided to send reinforcements to other regions. This place no longer had the power to stop Qin, so they could only ask for reinforcements from others. The alchemy world would give great rewards for destroying people from the Heaven Awakened world. Moreover, the Heaven Awakened world factions in other regions were being bullied by the alchemy world factions. If this news was leaked, perhaps some factions would be willing to help destroy Qin. After hearing that such a Heaven Awakened world faction had appeared, the people from other regions were quite happy. The Heaven Awakened world factions in their regions had already been destroyed, so they did not have any targets to attack. As such, they agreed to the two factions' requests. However, they did not send out many soldiers, only one. 5 billion. They understood that this was another region, and they did not want to lose a large number of people to help others destroy factions. As such, they only wanted to obtain benefits. Apart from the alchemy world, The factions in this region would also give them corresponding rewards. Otherwise, they would not have agreed so easily. The factions that had been planning to escape could not help but stop. Adding on the people from other regions, they now had 6 billion people, and they had the power to fight a final battle with Qin. If they could not win, they could only choose to relocate. This time, they did not choose to take the initiative to attack because they did not have many people to begin with. As such, they chose to defend. The factions started to construct their defenses. Zhao Fu soon learned of this news. He couldn't help but laugh, but he wasn't afraid of them. They gathered their forces together to have the ability to fight against Qin. In other words, their forces were gathered together, but their forces were distributed in different directions. Zhao Fu's Qin family was in the middle of these forces. Now that the Hua family in the south had been destroyed by Qin, there were still some alchemist families around it, and there were also many alchemist families in the other 3 directions. Qin felt that there was no need to gather forces to fight them head-on. They could send forces to attack the alchemist families in other directions. Now that the main force of the alchemist family was gathered in the east, Qin only needed to attack the north and west. Qin's soldiers divided into 2 groups and marched in 2 directions. When the alchemist families heard of this news, their expressions became quite grim. They did not have many people, and if they split up, they would be at a disadvantage. However, they had no choice. Qin did not want to fight them head-on, so they could only defend in 2 directions. Zhao Fu left over 1 billion soldiers in the Qin territory to defend in case anything unexpected happened. He sent over 7 billion soldiers to attack 2 places, and each side had about 5 billion soldiers. Qin's soldiers marched quickly, and they soon gathered in front of the alchemist family's defensive wall. The defensive wall seemed to have been built temporarily, and it was quite crude. However, because it contained metal, it had decent defensive power. Zhao Fu personally led one group, and Wang Jian led the other. At that moment, Zhao Fu looked at the people on the defensive wall. There were some familiar faces. They had attacked Qin a few times, and Zhao Fu had some impressions of them. There were also some unfamiliar faces. The leader of this group was a middle-aged man dressed in white, and he gave off a calm aura. He looked quite similar to Renua, and he was the patriarch of this family, Renning. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "It's not too late for you to surrender." Renning looked at Zhao Fu and said with a serious expression, "It's impossible for us to surrender. Perhaps we can coexist peacefully and have nothing to do with each other in the future." Zhao Fu gave a trace of a cold smile. When Qin had been weak, these people had been thinking about attacking Qin. Now that Qin was powerful, they wanted to coexist peacefully. How could Zhao Fu agree? He directly said, "Attack." Boom! The black-armored Qin soldiers rushed towards the defensive wall like a black tide. They were incredibly fast, and it seemed as if they were going to destroy everything. The scene was quite shocking, and their auras shook the surroundings. On the alchemist side, rows of holy beasts had long since been released. They were behind the defensive wall, and their cannons were aimed at Qin soldiers. Boom! 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 Massive beams of light containing terrifying power shot out incredibly quickly, bringing with them ferocious gales. The power was terrifying, and it seemed as if it could not be blocked at all. Boom! 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 White beams of light appeared in front of Qin's soldiers, giving off boundless white light. Bald and topless holy light emissaries appeared and lined up in a row. They stretched out a hand, and waves of white power flowed out, forming white light barriers. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the beams of light containing immense power slammed against the defensive barrier. The defensive barrier gave off intense white light, blocking this wave of attacks. The reason why the holy light emissaries were able to block the beams of light was because there were only 6,000 or so holy beasts, while the 100,000 holy light emissaries that Zhao Fu had summoned could block the attacks of 10,000 or so holy beasts. Seeing that the countless beams of light were unable to harm Qin's soldiers, the expressions of the alchemist leaders became quite grim, and they had a bad feeling. Roar! 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 Massive dragons' roars sounded out as the mechanical wyverns spread their wings and flapped them as they flew into the sky, sending out wild gales. Boom! 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 Explosions sounded out as the 4,000 or so mechanical wyverns shot out massive beams of light that contained terrifying power as they shot towards the defensive wall with unstoppable momentum. It was as if they were going to pierce through the sky. The alchemist formations on the defensive wall were activated, and alchemist elemental essence gathered, forming metal shields in front of the defensive wall. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the terrifying beams of light blasted apart the metal shields, causing countless fragments to fly everywhere. A massive shock wave spread out, sending the alchemist's soldiers flying back. Chapter 2289. However, most of the light beam's power was blocked by the metal shields, and many of the soldiers were sent flying, but their injuries were not serious. Renning had no choice but to release his 500 humanoid holy beasts. 1,000-meter-tall mechanical giants appeared, emitting a powerful aura. Behind them, countless rays of light shot out. They charged into the sky and drew the blades on their backs, charging towards the mechanical wyverns. The mechanical wyverns did not show any fear. Instead, they ferociously charged over. They opened their mouths and shot out a huge light beam towards the mechanical giant. The mechanical giant poured alchemy power into the blades in its hands, causing the blades to emit sharp light. With a powerful swing, an arc of light appeared, splitting the light beam in two. Pooh! The mechanical wyverns pounced in front of the mechanical giant and bit down on the mechanical giant's shoulder. With a powerful swing of its head, it tore off a large piece of metal. The mechanical giant frantically swung its blade, slashing out a huge blade light that sent the mechanical wyverns flying. The mechanical wyverns that were sent flying also had a sizable wound on its body. Roar! The mechanical wyverns furiously roared and charged over with a powerful aura. The other two mechanical wyverns also ferociously charged towards the mechanical giant. Although the mechanical giant was very powerful, Qin's mechanical wyverns were not weak either. Moreover, there were 4,000 of them, while the humanoid giants only had 500. As such, the mechanical giant was in a very disadvantageous situation. It was being suppressed by the mechanical wyverns, and some parts of it had already been smashed to pieces. When it fell to the ground, it created a large crater. Renning had the many holy beast cannons aim at the mechanical wyverns in the sky. If this went on, the mechanical giant would definitely be destroyed. He would deal with the mechanical wyverns first before dealing with Qin's soldiers. The cannons were raised and aimed at the mechanical wyverns. The cannons emitted light, and a shocking power spread out. At this moment, the 100,000 holy light emissaries also extended a hand and aimed at the city walls, emitting blinding white light. Countless beams of white light shot out in that instant, filling the sky and lighting up the surroundings. The terrifying power they gave off seemed to be able to destroy everything in their path. In this moment of crisis, Renning could only have the combat holy beast stop their attacks and cover the city walls with alchemy shields. Bang, 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 muffled sounds rang out. The alchemy shields were quite sturdy, and they successfully blocked the white light beams. Kill! At that moment, countless Qin's soldiers roared and raised their weapons as they gave off massive auras and rushed towards the Great Wall. Many alchemy soldiers held alchemy spears in their hands and threw them forward. The alchemy runes on the spears lit up and shot into the void. Light circles appeared one after another, and countless spears shot out from them, shooting towards Qin's soldiers like raindrops. On Qin's side, countless soldiers surged with cyan alchemy power, forming a metallic cyan aura that wrapped around Qin's soldiers. Bang, bang, bang. Countless spears were deflected as if they had hit a metal wall. They didn't hurt Qin's soldiers. Qin's soldiers continued to rush toward the city wall like a tide. Soon, Qin soldiers arrived at the bottom of the city walls and took out siege ladders and flying locks. Some of the soldiers used their strength to punch holes in the walls before climbing up. The alchemy soldiers shot out many arrows and threw heavy objects, attacking the many Qin soldiers. Arrows pierced through the alchemy soldiers' bodies, causing blood to fly everywhere. Heavy objects smashed into Qin's soldiers' bodies, causing Qin soldiers to be heavily injured. Pain cries sounded out, and many of Qin's soldiers also died. Swish, swish, swish. At that moment, Qin's soldiers shot arrows towards the city wall, piercing through the bodies of the alchemy soldiers. The alchemy soldiers continuously died. Soon, Qin's soldiers were about to reach the top of the city wall. Alchemy formations were once again activated, and massive waves of alchemy power spread out. Swish, swish, swish. Sharp metal spikes shot out from the city wall towards the many Qin soldiers. Some Qin's soldiers gave off cyan metal aura flames, causing their bodies to turn into metal to block the metal spikes. Some used their shields to block, while others chose to dodge. However, there were still many Qin soldiers whose bodies were pierced by the metal spikes, causing blood to fly everywhere as they screamed. Zhao Fu's gaze became cold, and he had the mechanical dragons in the sky attack. Boom! Boom! Some of the mechanical dragons held up the mechanical giant, while even more mechanical dragons shot out massive beams of light at the city wall. The city wall was blasted apart, and many alchemy soldiers were blasted to pieces. Blood and dismembered corpses were everywhere. Qin soldiers continued to ferociously attack the alchemy soldiers. With the mechanical dragon suppression, they successfully reached the top of the city wall. The alchemy army and Qin's soldiers started fighting. An alchemy soldier wielded a long saber and sent a Qin soldier flying. A Qin soldier chopped off the head of an alchemy soldier with a saber, while a Qin soldier pierced through the body of an alchemy soldier with a spear. A Qin's soldier wielded a giant hammer and smashed a person's body into pieces. An alchemy soldier wielded a longbow and shot an arrow through the neck of a Qin soldier. The Qin's soldier died instantly. Soon, another arrow pierced through the chest of an alchemy soldier, killing that alchemy soldier as well. An alchemy soldier wielded a long sword and pierced the chest of a Qin soldier. A Qin's soldier wielded a spear and sent an alchemy soldier flying. Another Qin's soldier wielded a long saber and chopped off the head of an alchemy soldier. The battle was very intense. Qin's side had a greater advantage, as most of the casualties were alchemy soldiers. The holy beasts were unable to attack the people fighting together, and they could only aim their cannons at the mechanical dragons in the sky. Many holy light emissaries immediately flew into the sky and formed defensive barriers to block the attacks. They also started to attack the holy beasts. Bang! The mechanical dragons ferociously knocked a mechanical giant into the ground, creating a large crater. The mechanical dragons also quickly attacked the mechanical giants. On the other side of the battlefield, Qin soldiers gave off a powerful aura as they charged towards the city wall like a tidal wave. This side was mainly made up of alchemy factions from other regions, and the number of soldiers and holy beasts was about the same as the other side. The other regions were quite confident. In their minds, the Heaven Awakened World factions were very weak and were no match for the Alchemy World. Chapter 2290. It was quite laughable that they could not even defeat such a faction. The people from other regions looked down on the people from this region and felt that they were too weak. They felt that it was quite shameful to be a powerful alchemist clan. Now that they had personally acted, they wanted to show the people of this region what the alchemist world's true power was. They wanted to make the faction called Qin feel fear and understand who the master of this region was. Since they had dared to attack the alchemist world, they would be taught a lesson in blood. Scree! Massive bird cries sounded out as massive mechanical birds flew into the sky, and there were 4,000 or so of them. Most of these mechanical birds were from other regions, and many of them had been destroyed or heavily injured by the mechanical dragons. Rays of light shot out from the holes on the mechanical birds' bodies, forming orbs of light that gave off terrifying power. These mechanical birds were quite suited for attacking large numbers of soldiers, and just a single explosion could kill many people and heavily injure the entire army. The other 4,000 or so war saint beasts were also released, and they pointed their cannons at the incoming army, giving off terrifying lights. Wang Jian raised a hand, and a ring on his finger gave off boundless light. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a massive might descended. It was as if the heavens and earth were unable to withstand it and were about to collapse. The alchemist world's countless people looked terrified as they sensed this massive might. They felt as if they were being crushed by a massive boulder, and they felt as if they were going to suffocate. They were unable to resist at all. A massive shadow covered the sky, and a massive metallic object giving off an incredibly terrifying aura slowly descended. Because the other regions had not obtained many of Qin's soldiers, they all looked quite confused and shocked as to what this metallic object was. Some of the alchemist faction leaders who recognized this thing looked terrified, as they said anxiously, "This thing has appeared on our side. Can we stop it? Hurry up and think of something. Otherwise, it'll be too late." Seeing how terrified the faction leaders were, the other region's factions felt that something was off. Ordinary things would not make people feel such fear. A cold-looking middle-aged man, he was the Bing family's leader, looked at the descending war god's fury and coldly harumphed as he said, "Attack that thing with all of your power." Swish, swish, swish. Balls of light descended from below the many mechanical birds. These balls of light gave off astonishing destructive power, and under the control of the many mechanical birds, they uniformly shot toward the war god's fury in the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out as countless Saint Beast cannons shot out powerful beams of light that tore through the sky and shot towards the war god's fury, as if they could destroy everything. Boom, boom, boom. Huge arrays were activated on the ground, and a large amount of alchemy power gathered together to form huge metal eyes. They were cold and emotionless, emitting a destructive aura. There were over 1,000 of them. The metallic eyes gave off rays of light and powerful alchemy power. Light cones formed, and each one was 10 meters long. There were over 10,000 of them, and they gave off terrifying auras. Boom, boom, boom. Cones of light containing immense force shot towards the war god's fury in the sky, bringing with them powerful gales that seemed to pierce through the sky, causing people's hairs to stand on end. Boom! Facing the countless attacks, the war god's fury emitted a huge amount of power. Its spires lit up one by one, and a huge alchemy barrier appeared, covering the entire war god's fury. Bang, 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 bang. Countless attacks landed on the barrier, causing fierce explosions. Countless dazzling lights spread out, making people unable to see anything. Terrifying shock waves spread out from the sky, seeming to pull people into an abyss. Their bodies uncontrollably trembled, and their souls felt extreme terror. Such a terrifying attack could destroy everything, and nothing could stop it. Everyone in the alchemy world was thinking the same thing. That thing definitely couldn't endure so many attacks. The countless lights scattered, and everyone in the alchemy world looked at the war god's fury in the sky with shock. Nothing had happened to it, and only a few cracks had appeared on its defensive barrier. How could this be? So many terrifying attacks couldn't harm that thing in the slightest. That thing's defense was too terrifying. As countless people in the alchemy world were shocked, the war god's fury scattered its defensive barrier, and huge ice-cold cannons aimed at the defensive wall. Countless rays of light burst out, and an aura of annihilation spread out. Boom, boom, boom. Heaven-shaking explosions rang out as huge beams of light shot out with world-destroying power. They were extremely fast, and they seemed unstoppable as they hit the defensive wall below. Bang, bang, bang. Massive explosions sounded out as shocking shock waves spread out, destroying everything in the surroundings. Nothing could resist. Countless rays of light spread out, causing the world to be filled with white light. The ground violently trembled and waves of destructive aura flooded out like a flood, drowning everything within it. Sensing this destructive aura, everyone's bodies trembled, feeling despair and helplessness. After some of the shock waves spread out, everyone in the alchemy world looked at the scene in front of them in shock. A crater that was millions of meters wide had been blasted out of the ground, and one of the defensive walls had collapsed. Countless rocks and corpses were scattered everywhere, and the ground was covered with blood. The 10 million soldiers on the defensive wall had died just like that, and they had been unable to resist at all. That was nearly 10 million soldiers. Not only that, but hundreds of holy beasts had also been blasted apart, and some had been heavily damaged. Most of them could no longer be used. You're still attacking? Hurry up and retreat. The people in the other regions finally understood why the people here were so afraid of this thing. It was more terrifying than they had imagined. Qin's power was simply too monstrous, and they could not afford to offend him. How could there be such a terrifying heaven-awakened world faction? They had underestimated the other side, and it was not that the alchemy world factions were weak, but that the opponent they had encountered was simply too monstrous. Now, they did not have any thoughts of fighting. They only had one thought, which was to escape. Only by escaping could they survive. The people in the other regions all retreated without any hesitation, and they were incredibly fast. The cold-looking middle-aged man looked at the war god's fury in the sky with a pale face. However, no one had the time to care about him, and the leaders all gave the order to retreat. They understood that they were not a match for this thing at all, and they had already lost. Chapter 2291. The countless alchemist cultivator soldiers looked terrified. They had been frightened by this destructive attack, and they did not have much morale to fight. All of the alchemist cultivator soldiers started to retreat, panicking like street rats. Wang Jin smiled. The time for Qin to run amok in the alchemist world was over. It was now time for Qin to run amok in the world. Attack! As Wang Jin's calm voice sounded out, Great Qin's countless soldiers roared and gave off ferocious auras as they charged forwards, sweeping through everything in their path. Who could stop them? The outcome of this battle had already been decided, and there would be no more surprises. Zhao Fu's gaze turned to the other battlefield. Under Qin's ferocious attacks, the alchemist cultivator army's casualties continued to rise, and they could no longer withstand Qin's attacks. All of the mechanical giants had been blasted apart, and the mechanical wyverns and many holy light emissaries were fighting against the holy beasts. It was as if the holy beasts had gone berserk, and their cannons shot out beams of light, causing powerful auras to spread out. Some of the mechanical wyverns were injured by the beams of light, and some of the more serious ones fell from the sky, dying. Some holy light emissaries were summoned creatures, so they were easily blasted apart. On Qin's side, the mechanical wyverns continuously shot out massive beams of light that landed on the holy beast bodies, shattering them. The holy light emissaries also continuously shot out white beams of light, continuously bombarding the holy beasts and successfully shattering them. The leader of the alchemist cultivator army understood that they could not withstand Qin, so he did not hesitate and gave the order to retreat. They had been completely slaughtered by Qin. As they retreated, more and more people from the alchemist cultivator army retreated. In the end, the alchemist cultivator army completely lost the ability to resist and fled. Now that the outcome of this battle had been decided, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and continued to order his people to chase after the alchemist cultivator soldiers. This time, Zhao Fu did not want to let them off, and he planned to destroy their forces in one go. This was because their last bit of resistance had been defeated by Qin, and they were like fat sheep standing there. If they did not eat them up now, they would run away later. Kill! Qin's soldiers did not face any difficulties and easily broke through cities, rushing in and starting massacres. The people who did not surrender Qin and those who ran away were all killed, regardless of whether they were men or women, old or young. A group of Qin's cavalrymen easily caught up to a group of people and stabbed them with spears, piercing through their bodies. Blood sprayed everywhere as they died. The Qin cavalrymen threw their corpses to the side and continued to chase after the other people. A group of alchemist city commoners held weapons and rushed out from an alley, but they were hacked to death by great Qin soldiers, causing blood to flow to the ground. Some people held weapons and rushed out from an alley, but were hacked to death by Qin soldiers. Those who dared to harm great Qin's soldiers were skinned and hung in front of the gates. They did not die and instead howled in pain. Those who dared to harm Qin's cavalrymen were skinned and hung in front of the gates. They did not die, but they screamed in pain. There were rows of residents kneeling on the streets, looking down in fear, not daring to move at all. They had personally seen how cruel and cold-blooded great Qin's soldiers were, and they did not dare to resist at all. Countless people knelt on the streets, looking down in fear, not daring to move. They had seen how cruel and cold-blooded Qin's cavalrymen were, and they did not dare to resist at all. Countless people became even more cautious and fearful. Even though they did not know who Zhao Fu was, they felt that he had a very high status in Qin, which was why so many terrifying Qin's cavalrymen followed him. Finally, Zhao Fu came to a large courtyard, which was also surrounded by Qin's cavalrymen. This was where the core of the Qin's family was located. A group of people were tied up and kneeling on the ground, and one of them was the person who had retreated. He was the family chief, and he no longer looked high and mighty. Instead, he looked quite wretched. Meng Tian had personally captured him, and she had spent a lot of effort to do so. Beside him was an arrogant and unruly young man, who was the young master of the Qin family. He had a look of fear on his face, and he looked quite dispirited. He had never thought that such a day would come. Not only had he been stripped of his position as the young master, but the Qin family had also been destroyed. Now, he had nothing left, and he did not even know if he would be able to survive. Zhao Fu got off his horse and lightly laughed as he said, "We just met. How did you end up like this? Also, I told you to surrender to me. Have you thought about it?" The person raised his head and coldly looked at Zhao Fu as he said, "I admit that I lost to you today, but I won't submit to someone from the heaven-awakened world. Also, don't get too cocky. You'll definitely be destroyed by the other Qin family factions." Zhao Fu's smile did not change as he said, "Is that so? However, even if that happens, you won't be able to see it anymore." As he spoke, Zhao Fu waved his hand, and an arc of light flew out, chopping off the person's head, causing blood to spurt out. "Dad!" Ren Nuo cried out in pain before hatefully glaring at Zhao Fu as he said, "I'm going to kill you. Let go of me if you dare, and we'll have a fair fight." Zhao Fu glanced at him and casually waved his hand, and an arc of light flashed out, chopping off Ren Nuo's head. Zhao Fu was not interested in fighting with him. It would be a waste of time. Seeing that Zhao Fu had casually killed two important figures from the Qin family, the people kneeling on the ground were so scared that their faces became pale. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at a delicate-looking young man next to him and said, "Take me to your family's legacy land." The young man replied fearfully, "Yes, I'll immediately take her there. Please don't kill me, sir." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "If you perform well, I naturally won't kill you." Following this, Zhao Fu waved his hand, and an arc of light cut through the ropes binding the young man. The young man immediately knelt on the ground and said gratefully, "Thank you, sir." Zhao Fu simply nodded before grabbing out with his hand. A wave of energy gathered Ren Nuo's blood into a small orb of blood, and he followed the two young men to the Qin family's legacy land. He first occupied the Qin family's legacy pillar before Zhao Fu used the 8 forbidden blood art to absorb the orb of blood into his body, temporarily obtaining the Qin family's bloodline and looking through its information. The Qin family's humanoid saint beast was much more powerful than ordinary saint beasts, and Zhao Fu was quite curious as to how the Qin family had raised such a humanoid saint beast. Time gradually passed, and a few hours later, Wang Jian arrived. He had finished dealing with his own matters and had come here to report the situation to Zhao Fu. Chapter 2292. In the Inheritance Pillar, Zhao Fu was a bit surprised because he already knew all about the Saint Clan. The Saint Clan's origin was not simple. It was not an ordinary alchemy clan, but an alchemy clan that had existed since ancient times. Because of this, not only could they raise humanoid holy beasts, but they were also stronger than other holy beasts. It had been said before that a shocking war had occurred in the alchemy world, causing the deaths of countless creatures and the destruction of many alchemy clans. The Saint Clan was one of them. The Saint Clan was not originally called the Saint Clan, but the Saint Clan. They were almost as strong as a saint-level force. Not only were they very famous in ancient times, but they also had a very high status. All the alchemy clans had been afraid of their strength. Unfortunately, after the ancient war, the Saint Clan had suffered heavy losses. Almost all of their experts had died, and their various inheritances had been destroyed. The Saint Clan had become weaker with each generation. Not only had they left the alchemy region, but they had also come to this remote inner region and changed their name. With their current strength, they did not deserve the word saint, so they had changed their name. They had always hoped to return to the glory of the past, but with their current strength, it was impossible. Now, they had been destroyed by Zhao Fu. The former Saint Clan could be said to have been truly destroyed, but a new Saint Clan had been born. However, this Saint Clan was no longer a powerful independent clan, but an alchemy clan that belonged to Qin. Zhao Fu looked at the information and said that the Saint Clan had put in a lot of effort and hardship for the clan to rise, but in the end, it had ended in failure. Since they could not do this, he would help them complete it and fulfill their long-cherished wish. At the same time, Zhao Fu also changed the Saint Clan back to the Saint Clan. Zhao Fu himself had power that surpassed the saint-level bloodline, so he was qualified to use the word saint. Moreover, the Saint Clan's cry was a bit strange, as if it was acting coquettishly. Finally, there was the Saint Clan's unique alchemy technique and method of raising holy beasts. Most of the Saint Clan's alchemy technique was incomplete and needed to be repaired. One could use this as a foundation to repair or create another alchemy technique, or use one's own power of inheritance to repair. Repairing or creating one's own naturally would not be able to be repaired by the power of inheritance. Because the alchemy repaired by the power of inheritance was as powerful as the ancient alchemy of the past, its power would not be weakened. However, this required the legacy power to be very powerful. As a legacy family, as long as the mortal sage family grew stronger, their fate would also become stronger, and their legacy power would also become stronger. In other words, as long as Zhao Fu made the mortal Saint Clan very powerful, these ancient alchemy techniques would automatically repair themselves. Finally, there was the method to cultivate humanoid holy beasts. In the alchemy world, humanoid holy beasts were very difficult to cultivate. It was almost several times more difficult than ordinary holy beasts. Moreover, if one did not master alchemy well, they might fail. This caused humanoid holy beasts to be very rare in the alchemy world. However, the mortal sage's method of nurturing was somewhat different. Furthermore, it wasn't called nurturing humanoid holy beasts, but rather nurturing ancient divine weapons. This humanoid sacred beast was called the primordial weapon god, and it was one of the strongest techniques of the mortal Saint Clan. It was a famous item in ancient times. The alchemy world was extremely powerful in ancient times. An item that could have such a reputation in that period was definitely something very terrifying. The primordial weapon god also had its own consciousness, and it could change its size at will. In other words, it could become as big as 1,000 meters, as big as a doll, and it could even fuse with the family imprint. If one wanted to use it, they could summon it at any time, and there would be no restrictions. It was very convenient. Moreover, the primordial weapon god could fight on its own, and it could also be controlled to fight. However, it was not controlled by several people at the same time, but by one person. Moreover, the method of control was a bit special. It needed to be fused with the primordial weapon god to achieve the level of fusion between human and machine. The person controlling it would not only be like having a huge mechanical body, but also the various abilities of the primordial weapon god. It was very terrifying. The primordial weapon god was definitely one of the strongest holy beasts in that era. Unfortunately, that was in the past, and the current primordial weapon god was many times weaker. Now, the primordial weapon god no longer had its own consciousness, and it could not change its size at will. It still needed several people to control it, and it could not achieve fusion between human and machine. However, it could still fuse with the family imprint. Even though the primordial weapon god was a bit more powerful than ordinary holy beasts, it was about the same as a basic holy beast. There was nothing special about it. There were two reasons for this. The first was that many holy beasts had rebelled in the ancient era, and the primordial weapon god was one of them. It had dealt a devastating blow to the mortal sage family, which was why it had its consciousness wiped out and used the same method as everyone else. The second reason was that the materials needed to create the primordial weapon god were lacking, and the most important core of the primordial weapon god was missing. The core of the primordial weapon god was a Denver. As mentioned before, the first thing to do when creating a holy beast was to find a den to bind to the family's legacy item. However, the den used to create the primordial weapon god had been destroyed in the ancient war, and it could not be used again. In the end, they could only find a giant den to bind to the family's legacy item and use it as a material to create the primordial weapon god. Even though the method to create the primordial weapon god had been preserved, because of these two reasons, the primordial weapon god did not have the power it once had. Zhao Fu was quite curious as to what kind of den the mortal sage family had used to create the primordial weapon god. After a simple search, he found out that they had used a martial god giant den. Martial god giants were usually 10,000 meters tall. They had 3 heads, 6 arms, blood-red hair, and blood-red crescent-shaped eyes. They were strong and muscular, and they gave off a powerful fighting aura. In the ancient era, they were a very powerful race that liked to fight. It could be said that they were a race that lived by fighting. Their fighting strength was very shocking, and they could easily shatter the heavens and split the earth. Very few people could defeat them head-on. They had left behind many legends in the alchemy world, and most of them were famous for their battles. The martial god bloodline flowed in their bodies. The martial god bloodline itself was an imperial bloodline, and it had a powerful bloodline power. However, there had never been a lot of martial god giants. They were actually a race, and they were not like ordinary beasts. However, the ancestors of the mortal sage family had used some unknown method to obtain a martial god giant Denver. This might be the only martial god giant den in the world. Seeing this, Zhao Fu understood that it was almost impossible for him to find another martial god giant Denver. Chapter 2293. If Zhao Fu wanted to create something as powerful as the ancient weapon god, he would have to find a den that was as powerful as the ancient weapon god. What's more, it would be a den in the alchemy world. No matter how powerful a den was, it would be useless. Finally, Zhao Fu found that the martial giant den had been stored in the legacy space. Zhao Fu looked around and found a blood-red box. It was 30 centimeters wide and was made of metal. There were scenes of battles engraved on it, giving off a bloody feeling. This box most likely contained the martial giant den. Zhao Fu wanted to open it, but he found that he could not because he did not have the Sheng family bloodline. Furthermore, it did not require an ordinary bloodline. It required an extremely pure mortal saint bloodline. In other words, a direct descendant bloodline. Zhao Fu had no choice but to use the 8 forbidden blood art to temporarily turn his bloodline into a pure Sheng family bloodline. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and sent some bloodline power into the box. The box gave off a blood-red light and opened by itself, revealing what was inside. There were broken blood-red crystals inside. Each piece was not very big, with the largest being the size of a finger and the smallest being the size of a soybean. They gave off a faint blood-red light and gave off a powerful aura. This aura was incredibly ferocious, and it was like the aura that one would give off during a battle. Zhao Fu counted and found that there were 26 pieces in total. Zhao Fu wanted to take the martial god den back to see if there was any way to repair it. After all, it was impossible for Zhao Fu to obtain a second martial god den, and he did not have the ability to obtain such a high-grade den in the alchemy world. If he could repair it, Qin would be able to create the ancient weapon god and allow his power to see the light of day again. According to the records in the Legacy Land, the ancient weapon god's power definitely would not allow Zhao Fu to die. Perhaps it would become a powerful method for Qin to attack the alchemy world. Of course, Zhao Fu did not have much hope in repairing it. After all, even the powerful Shang family could not repair it, and it would be very difficult for him. After looking through all the information regarding the Shang family, a joyful smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. His consciousness returned to his body, and only then did he realize that Wang Jian had been waiting for him. Zhao Fu knew his purpose, so he sat on the chair above and asked with a smile, "How's the situation on your side?" Wang Jian smiled as he reported, "Your Majesty, with a terrifying existence like the war god's fury, nothing will be a problem." This time, Wang Jian used the power of the war god's fury, suppressing everything in his way. Even he was shocked in his heart. His Majesty had actually created something so terrifying that it could destroy an entire country. Zhao Fu nodded. "Where are the details?" Wang Jian said to Zhao Fu. "Now that all the alchemist clans here have been annihilated by Qin, this place now belongs to Qin. Also, this time, many alchemist clans have escaped, including the strongest Bing clan." This general immediately ordered people to attack the Bing clan. But who would have thought that the Bing clan had already made preparations to escape? By the time we attacked the Bing clan had already escaped. This time, Great Qin's losses were not great. In terms of the final gains, this general has ordered people to tally them up. Including all of the factions that we destroyed, we obtained a total of 20 billion residents from the world of Gold Refiner. There were 5 billion Gold Refiner soldiers and 3,000 holy beasts that submitted to Great Qin. In just a few days, they had gained 20 billion residents and 5 billion alchemist soldiers. These were all Stage 2 alchemist soldiers, and they were of great use to Qin. Finally, there were the Saint Beasts. Qin now had 3,000 or so Saint Beasts, which would be of great use to him. Zhao Fu had been waiting for this day for a long time, and he had finally vented his anger. In the past, Qin had been suppressed by these alchemist clans, and now they had all been annihilated. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "The harvest is not bad. You've worked hard this time. Go and have a good celebration with the general. I'll order people to take care of the rest." Wang Jian smiled as he said, "This general will be taking his leave then." After Wang Jian left, Zhao Fu ordered people to go to the Heaven Awakened world and gather some civil officials. Right now, this wasn't a battle base, but a force that needed to redevelop its buildings. Zhao Fu first planned to unify the scattered clans so that they would not be as messy as before. He would then start to build a unified defense so that the various clans would be more integrated with each other and with Qin. What a faction needed the most was cohesiveness, or else it would be like a pile of loose sand. In the future, the alchemist clans would all be led by Qin. As for the current management of the faction, Zhao Fu did not use alchemists to manage them. Instead, he gathered some civil officials from the Heaven Awakened world, and he could not completely trust them. As a general, even though Wang Jian knew some internal affairs, Zhao Fu only had to manage the military. It was not that Zhao Fu did not trust him, but that a single person's energy was limited and could not handle so many things. Moreover, it was indeed better to leave internal affairs to civil officials. After dealing with this matter, Zhao Fu gathered the mortal saint family's direct descendants. Now, Zhao Fu wanted to greatly support the mortal saint family's development, so he had to choose a suitable person to be the clan chief. The young man who had led the way was naturally not suitable because he was too young. Even though he had a direct descendant's bloodline, he was not suitable to be the clan chief. Zhao Fu needed someone with true ability. In the future, the mortal saint family would most likely become a very important family in Qin, so he had to carefully consider the matter of choosing a clan chief. He could not make any rash decisions. 10 or so minutes later, the mortal saint family's direct descendants came before Zhao Fu and respectfully bowed as they said, "We greet your majesty." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded before looking at the men and women below and saying, "I already know everything about the mortal saint family. I've changed my name to the mortal saint family, and I'll help you fulfill your family's wishes. Also, I want to choose a clan chief from among you. Who do you think is the most suitable for this position?" The mortal saint family's people all looked quite shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would know everything about the mortal saint family. Everyone guessed that Zhao Fu might know through the legacy pillars, but that would require a pure mortal saint family bloodline. How had Zhao Fu done this? Most importantly, Zhao Fu had said that he would help them realize their dreams of reviving the mortal saint family. They could not help but feel incredibly excited. This was something that the entire family had always wanted to do, but had never been able to do. Qin's faction was so powerful, and even the ruler of Qin had said such a thing. With Qin's support, it was possible that the mortal saint family could return to its former glory. Now that they felt that it would be more beneficial to surrender to Qin, the mortal saint family's people said gratefully, "Thank you, your majesty." Chapter 2294. Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "It's because your saint family has great potential that I'm willing to nurture you. In the future, you might become the largest alchemist family in Qin, so you have to perform well. Who do you think is the most suitable to be the clan chief?" The saint family looked at each other. A few of them wanted to be the clan chief because the clan chief could control everything in the family. It was the most prestigious person, and everyone wanted to be the clan chief. They were the more capable people and had quite a high status in the saint family, so they all said, "I want to be the clan chief." Zhao Fu looked at them. There were 5 people in total, and they were all beautiful women. One was tall and had a beautiful face, and her right hand was like a machine. She gave off a dignified aura. One was voluptuous and had pink skin, and she gave off a flirtatious aura. One had a sexy figure, short hair, and a machine-like body, and she gave off a heroic aura. One had a slim figure and mechanical eyes, and she gave off a peaceful feeling. One had a mature figure and flirtatious looks, and she looked incredibly alluring. Zhao Fu looked at them and gave a trace of an interested smile as he asked, "Why are the 5 of you wanting to be the clan chief?" The tall and beautiful woman smiled as she said, "Your Majesty, we have the highest status here and have the purest bloodlines. Only the 5 of us have the highest statuses here and have the purest bloodlines. Everyone else with similar statuses have been killed by Great Qin, including my husband and son." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and looked at this beautiful woman. He felt that she was quite similar to Ren Nuo, and he smiled as he said, "You're the clan chief's wife?" The beautiful woman smiled as she replied, "That's right." Zhao Fu smiled as he said, "I've already killed your husband and son. Why are you still willing to serve me? And you don't hate me?" The beautiful woman smiled as she replied, "Your Majesty, it was our saint family that offended you. We have nothing to say about being destroyed by you. Moreover, your Majesty and the others' Philosopher's Stones were not damaged, and they still have a chance to revive." The Alchemist clan had another benefit, which was that they could continuously revive with the Philosopher's Stone. However, Qin's Philosopher's Stone did not have this ability, and it was most likely related to bloodline loss. Zhao Fu smiled and said, "If you perform well, I can give them a chance to resurrect." Hearing this, everyone felt even more grateful. Their loved ones who had been killed by Qin could all be revived, and they said, "Thank you, your Majesty." Zhao Fu then asked for their names. They were Ren Yu, Ren Bai Min, Ren Lily, Ren Wu, and Renya. After hearing their names, Zhao Fu looked at the others and asked, "What do you all think? Who is suitable to be the chief?" Everyone else was split into 5 factions, each with their own supporters. It was as if they had originally been split into these 5 factions, but the people who had led them had all been killed by Great Qin. Now, 5 new people had been elected. At that moment, the youth who had led the way said nervously, "Your Majesty, I feel that my mother is the most suitable to be the clan leader. Moreover, she is the clan leader's wife. In the past, my father also asked her to handle various matters." Zhao Fu understood that he was Ren Yu's son, as well as Ren Nuo's little brother. After thinking about it for a moment, it seemed that Ren Yu, as the clan leader's wife, was the most suitable to take over the position of clan leader. As such, he said, "In the future, Ren Yu will be the current clan leader of the human saint family. The other 4 can also take over important positions in the family." Now that they had all obtained great benefits, everyone happily smiled and said, "Your Majesty, we will definitely be loyal to Qin and will never betray him. We are willing to do anything for Qin." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. He said, "Everyone else can leave. The 5 of you can stay." Hearing this, everyone else left the room, leaving behind only the 5 beautiful women. They were the 5 most important people in the human saint family in the future, and Zhao Fu definitely wanted to control them and not have them betray him. Ren Yu and the others started to wonder what Zhao Fu wanted. Zhao Fu looked at them and their bodies as he smiled and said, "Come and serve me." The 5 beautiful women blushed. Bai Min, one of the more flirtatious ones, had been unable to resist the formless attraction that Zhao Fu gave off, and she had long since wanted to do it with Zhao Fu. Now that Zhao Fu said this, she was the first to kneel in front of Zhao Fu and serve Zhao Fu. The other women thought about their relatives who had been killed and also took off their clothes and knelt in front of Zhao Fu to serve Zhao Fu. Following this, intense sounds of doing it sounded out in the room. A few hours later, Zhao Fu left the room to take care of other matters. Right now, the alchemy land did not need war. What it needed was development and stability. Within the room, the 5 beautiful women's faces were completely red as they powerlessly lay on the ground, looking incredibly satisfied and blissful. They had never thought that they would be so happy doing it with a man other than their husband, and they were still reminiscing that feeling. Only after a while did they recover some strength and put on their clothes. They ordered people to clean up the room, as there were traces of them being violated by Zhao Fu. Ren Yu returned to her place of residence. The young man had been waiting there the entire time, and seeing Ren Yu return, he looked quite happy as he said, "Congratulations on becoming the chief, mother. Big brother and father can be revived, and mother, why did you suddenly become so alluring?" Ren Yu's face became slightly red as she smiled and said, Our family's status has been preserved. Our family's position has been preserved, and you have to perform well in the future. Although your brother and father can be revived, they may not have any chance of holding power. You can only rely on yourself. I will raise you to be the young master of the Saint family." Thinking about how he would become the young master of the Sheng family in the future, the young man became even more happy and smiled as he said, "Got it, I'll definitely do my best." Rinyu gave a satisfied smile, and she could not help but think about being violated by Zhao Fu while watching her son grow into a powerful expert. Ren Nuo and Rening would never have thought that not only had they been defeated by Zhao Fu, but their mother and wife had also been violated by Zhao Fu. Most importantly, they had become infatuated with this feeling and had sunk into it. However, even though they knew about this, they could not change anything. After becoming Zhao Fu's enemy, they had to be prepared to be destroyed and their wives and daughters violated. To Zhao Fu, enjoying the mothers, wives, and daughters of his enemies was quite a good experience. Not only could he vent his anger, but he could also enjoy it. Zhao Fu went to the war god's Fury research ground. Now that Zhao Fu had destroyed many families, he had gathered talented people from their families and added them to his alchemy research. Now, Qin's research abilities were much stronger than before. In the future, all sorts of alchemy experiments would be conducted here, and this would be the largest alchemy research ground in the future. Mu Minxian was not in the war god's Fury research ground, and she had returned to her family. Her family was one of the families that had been destroyed by Qin. Chapter 2295. The Mu family's power was quite ordinary, so Zhao Fu did not go there. If it had been the Bing family, Zhao Fu would have gone to look at the Bing family's legacy pillar. It was a pity that the Bing family had run away too quickly, or else they would have ended up like the whole family. Now, Mu Minxian sat on the seat of the Mu family's chief and looked at her family and friends kneeling below her. The people she had hated, feared, and looked up to were all different now. She was now the most prestigious and powerful person in the Mu family, and her wish to join Qin had come true. She could not help but feel quite happy. If she had not submitted to Qin, she would not have had all of this. The people kneeling on the ground were all shocked. Originally, an unimportant family disciple, someone who had betrayed the family, had become the family's leader in one leap. They couldn't be unconvinced at all. After all, she was now Qin's person, and if they dared to have any objections, they would be killed by Qin. They had seen how ferocious Qin was. Mu Minxian looked at the terrified people below her and gave a trace of smile. Now that she had become the Mu family's chief and the most powerful person in the family, she did not feel too bad about it. Ever since she had followed Qin, her standards had not been as low as before. Nothing could satisfy her now, and she believed that as long as she followed Qin, her status and power would be countless times greater. Finally, Zhao Fu looked back at the fury of victory and took out the box containing the martial god Giant's Den fragment. He was about to give it to his subordinates to see if it could be repaired or used for other purposes. Roar! Suddenly, a roar sounded out, and Zhao Fu turned to look at a massive cage. Within it was a 10-meter-tall, naked, muscular monster with sharp teeth and a pair of pitch-black eyes. It was an alchemy giant that Zhao Fu had captured. When Zhao Fu had explored the alchemy world for the first time, he had encountered many dog-like creatures, and this alchemy giant had been formed from countless dog-like creatures. The alchemy giant was very powerful, and it also had the ability to be immortal. For example, if it was cut in half, its head could still be seen, and if its body was split into pieces, it could still be resurrected. Qin had been studying this ability. He wanted to use this ability for Qin, which would be of great help to Qin. But after such a long time, Qin hadn't made any progress. Now, the alchemy giant was roaring and staring at the box as if it wanted the box very much. It was even hitting the iron cage, trying to break out. Zhao Fu was a little surprised. Why did this alchemy giant want the fragments of the Einerjar giant's lair? After giving it some serious thought, Zhao Fu made a bold decision. Zhao Fu ordered people to open the iron cage and release the alchemy giant. After the alchemy giant ran out, it excitedly and fiercely rushed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stood there motionlessly. The alchemy giant quickly rushed in front of Zhao Fu, but in the next moment, it stopped and looked at Zhao Fu with some fear. Although it wanted the box very much, its fear of Zhao Fu has been deeply engraved in its bones. Now, when it thought of Zhao Fu, its body would instinctively feel pain. It didn't dare to rush in front of Zhao Fu, and it couldn't even look at those terrifying eyes. Zhao Fu looked at the alchemy giant's fear of stopping and felt a little funny. He stretched out a hand and handed over the box. He directly opened the box, revealing blood-colored crystal fragments. The alchemy giant didn't expect Zhao Fu to do this, but still looked a little afraid and didn't dare to take a step closer to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu said with a smile, "This thing is for you, and if you obediently listen to me from now on, I won't use you for various kinds of research." The alchemy giant understood Zhao Fu's meaning and nodded. It didn't want to live a life worse than death. Boom! A massive aura exploded out from the alchemy giant's body, and it gave off countless rays of black light. Its body started to twist and deform, turning into a large mass of flesh and blood that floated in the air. Philosopher's stones appeared from the mass of flesh and blood, each of them giving off a faint light and giving off waves of alchemy power. A look of shock appeared on Zhao Fu's face. He had never thought that such a thing would happen. A formless energy spread out, and the crystal fragments within the box automatically floated up and gave off a blood-colored light. They flew towards the mass of flesh and blood, fusing into it. Boom! A terrifying power exploded out, forming a shockwave that spread out in all directions. The ground instantly cracked, and even Zhao Fu was forced back a step. The mass of flesh and air gave off a black and blood-colored light, and terrifying power continuously flowed out from it. Zhao Fu ordered the others to temporarily leave. Sensing that terrifying aura, everyone didn't dare to stay and hurriedly left. Boom! A shocking explosion rang out as a black and blood-red pillar of light containing immense power shot into the sky. It ferociously slammed into the sky, and a massive blood-red wave of light spread out, causing the heavens and earth to dim. The various alchemist clans sensed this terrifying ripple and could not help but come outside out of curiosity. They saw a massive blood-red pillar of light standing on the war god's fury, giving off a massive aura. What was going on? Why was it giving off such terrifying ripples? The various alchemist clansmen stared at this scene in shock, while some of Qin's soldiers were relatively calm. They had experienced this many times, so there was naturally nothing to be shocked about. Their majesty often caused abnormal changes to the heavens and earth, and it could be said that he was a professional at this. Zhao Fu stood in front of the pillar of light and watched as heaven and earth power flowed into the mass of flesh and blood. The mass of flesh and blood seemed to be transforming, and the philosopher's stones and blood-red crystal fragments gave off intense light. Time gradually passed, and more heaven and earth power flowed into the mass of flesh and blood like a flood. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as the mass of flesh and blood completed its transformation. It continuously twisted and changed, gradually taking on a humanoid shape. Following this, the mass of flesh and blood slowly stabilized, and a terrifying monster appeared in front of Zhao Fu. This monster was 20 or so meters tall and was completely black. It had powerful muscles and a pair of claws that were made of blood-red metal and gave off a cold light. It also had a mouth full of white fangs and 6 blood-red eyes on its head that gave off a savage gaze. A terrifying power spread out from the monster's body, and this power was filled with a berserk aura of destruction and battle, causing the surroundings to become incredibly oppressive. The surrounding ripples started to dissipate. The monster obediently stood in front of Zhao Fu, not daring to move at all. Even though its power had become terrifying, the more powerful it was, the more it could sense how terrifying the person in front of it was. Chapter 2296. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and looked at the monster's stats. Now that the monster had fused with the War God Giant's Den fragment, it had obtained the War God Giant's bloodline and War God's power. This War God's power had also fused with the monster's alchemy power, forming a completely new power. This new power was not any weaker than the War God's power, as it was a taboo power. It had terrifying destructive power that could destroy an entire world. The monster itself was a taboo alchemy creature, and the War God Den fragment had strengthened this power, which was why this taboo power was so powerful. Moreover, the monster's undying ability had been greatly strengthened. Now, even if it was blasted into smithereens, it would not truly die, and it would still reform. If Zhao Fu wanted to kill it, he would have to turn it into nothingness, leaving nothing behind. Otherwise, he could only use a seal to seal it. Otherwise, there would be no way to deal with it. However, this was not what Zhao Fu cared about the most. What Zhao Fu cared about the most was whether or not it could be used as a core material for the ancient weapon god. This was also the reason why Zhao Fu was willing to let the monster fuse with the War God Denver. After looking at the monster's stats, Zhao Fu was very satisfied. This monster could be used as a core material for the ancient weapon god. After the monster fused with the War God Den fragment, it had formed a nest alchemy creature. This nest alchemy creature was not a creature born from a nest, but a creature that was half creature and half nest. In other words, the monster had the various functions of a nest, and it could spawn creatures and control the creatures that spawned. At the same time, its upper body was also a creature, and it had great power. The monster's current power was not very strong to Zhao Fu, but it could grow. As it grew, the nest level would become higher and higher. Zhao Fu felt that the ancient weapon god that was nurtured would not be too weak. After all, it had fused with a war god giant's den fragment, and it was a taboo alchemy creature. If the ancient weapon god was weak, Zhao Fu would not believe it. The most important thing was the monster's growth. If it grew up, it would not be any weaker than the war god giant, and it might even be more terrifying. Bringing this monster with him, Zhao Fu returned to the mortal sage family. Following Zhao Fu's instructions, the monster cut open its palm and let out some blood before placing it on the legacy pillar, fusing its origin power and bloodline power with the legacy pillar. Although Zhao Fu had grasped the method to cultivate an ancient divine armament, it was something unique to the mortal saint family. Therefore, it needed to be bound to the mortal saint family's inheritance pillar. Zhao Fu couldn't cultivate it on his own. The monster's blood and power were constantly being absorbed, and the Sage Clan's legacy power was also continuously flowing into the monster's body. In the end, the two successfully fused together, and from then on, the Shang family would be able to continuously spawn creatures with the same bloodline and power as the monster. The Shang family could use them as a foundation to nurture the ancient weapon gods. As for the method to control them, Zhao Fu chose the ancient weapon god's method, as well as the ancient weapon god's consciousness. This was because it was obvious that a saint beast with consciousness would be much stronger. However, Zhao Fu still felt quite worried. Just what had happened in the alchemy world in ancient times? Why had so many alchemy saint beasts betrayed them? Many alchemy families did not dare to keep the saint beast consciousness, as they were worried that something like this would happen again. What if the ancient weapon god that they had nurtured also betrayed them? However, after thinking about it, Zhao Fu remembered that the monster was half creature and half den creature, so it could control all of the den creatures. Moreover, even if it lost control, the monster could still greatly weaken the den creature's power and reduce the threat they posed to the lowest possible level. Zhao Fu smiled as he looked at the monster standing there. The wound that he had cut open had instantly healed. This monster's recovery ability was quite shocking. As such, Zhao Fu looked at him and smiled as he said, "From now on, you'll be called Weapon Grandmaster." The Weapon Grandmaster nodded. He did not care too much about this, and he was already quite happy that Zhao Fu was not using him for research. This was the best thing that had happened to him. Zhao Fu continued, "I'll also give you a region in the alchemy world. From now on, you'll be the lord of that region. You'll be able to increase your strength there and develop your own faction." Hearing this, the Weapon Grandmaster was even happier. This meant that Zhao Fu was not restricting him at all. Not only was he not being used for research, but he was also being made the lord of a region. He directly knelt in front of Zhao Fu to express his loyalty. Zhao Fu lightly smiled and asked him to get up. Now, Zhao Fu was quite happy. Qin could create the ancient weapon god, and if he could create it, it would be another powerful tool for Qin. When he had first read through the Saint family's legacy, he had thought that it would be impossible, and he had never thought that it would be completed in less than half a day. However, things were quite coincidental. The Weapon Grandmaster, Zhao Fu, had been captured a long time ago and had been doing all sorts of research on him. Now that he could fuse with the martial god's lair fragment, he suddenly became very useful. If he had not met the Weapon Grandmaster back then, the matter of the ancient weapon god would not have been resolved so easily. It felt like fate was like a line, and Zhao Fu was walking along that line. Now that the alchemy world's matters had come to an end, the faction needed to develop and merge the various alchemy families into one, becoming a true faction. The nearby alchemy factions had now seen how powerful Qin was, and they would not have the guts to attack Qin, so there was no need to worry about a war. Qin only needed to focus on development and construction. In the end, Qin killed countless alchemy soldiers and destroyed many alchemy families, obtaining a vast amount of points. He only needed a little to exchange for the path-seeking stone. and then he would be able to create the primeval cauldron. Zhao Fu returned to Qin. He took care of some matters regarding Qin and then relaxed. Now, the alchemy world, the underworld, the god realm, and the chaotic world were all developing well, so there was nothing to worry about. Because of the protection of the heavenly kingdom, Qin could not start a war against the factions outside. Otherwise, Zhao Fu would have liked to send troops to destroy the factions outside and end their long-standing grievances. A few days later, Zhao Fu came to the chaotic world again. Now, the bugs and beasts around the chaotic world had been destroyed, and Qin had cleared out a large area. Unfortunately, it was of no use to Qin, so it could only be left empty. This was because this place was not suitable for developing factions. There were all sorts of bugs and beasts, and it could not be like other places, where it could continuously become stronger through waging wars. The reason why Zhao Fu came here was that Qin had discovered another chaotic race faction. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.